Hey y'all, good morning from chilly East Tennessee. It's a dreary old nasty cold day, but by gosh, we're gonna try to heat ourselves up here with some catfish. We're going after blues, maybe some flatheads too if we're lucky. It's that time of year. We're in November. We're kind of in this fall session here where these fish start to kind of feed up, pack on their weight for winter, and start picking up a lot more flatheads this time of year. Typically anyway. So what I've done, I've anchored us down here. I'm getting ready to bait a couple lines. We're going to do some suspend fishing today, which regular viewers know that's my favorite way to catch a catfish. There's nothing more fun than having a big takedown in a kayak, man. And you get that rush when the kayak starts to kind of lean over on a big fish. So I'm going to get y'all on a chest here, and we're going to see if we can have us some of that fun today. And then I'm going to put this hood back over my head and try to keep warm out here while we wait on a fish to bite. But I'll show you my rigs. We'll talk about the bait. I'm gonna show you on the map here, on the contour map, how we're setting up and why I want to be here, why I think we're gonna have a chance of success here. But first, let's get these baits on. First bait going down. We're fishing with 2 rods today, 2 rod setup. The first one here is a skipjack head. This is my favorite bait in the world. If we crush a monster today, I'm betting you it's gonna come on this bait. But we've got a Carolina rig. That's a 8-ounce egg sinker, 80-pound monofilament leader down to a 10-aught size circle hook. And then we've got a Catfish Sumo bait stalker fly a few inches below it. And of course I got that on my Signature Series Golly Whopper rod from Catfish Sumo. I've got Shimano Dakota 600 size reel and 40-pound test monofilament line from Catfish Sumo. This next rig will be the exact same setup, only with a different cut of bait. We've got a head and chunk combo is what we're gonna go with today. Those 2 baits, the head, and this is true whether I'm using skipjack, bluegill, shad, whatever. Any type of fish I'm cutting up. My favorite bait is the head bait. My second favorite cut is the section of meat right behind the head. Seems to have all them innards and everything in it there. So that's what we've got here. Just a chunk of it right there. Half the gut pockets done fell out. But otherwise, same exact rig. Dropping it down, I'm gonna let it hit bottom. And then we're gonna raise it up so that it's sitting there. The bait and that fly is gonna be 2 or 3 feet off bottom. I'm just reeling my rod tip down, bring it up, set it in the rod, hold it. So right now, we are 45 feet deep. And I'm gonna show you here on the map card best I can. Hopefully you can see okay there. 45 feet deep here. We're off this, there's a point that comes out right here. And up on here where them docks are, you've got a shallow flat that comes out. At normal pool, this flat will be about 20 feet deep or so. Now, they've started to drop our water level down for winter drawdown. They've just started dropping it here in the last week or so, so water is falling. I don't know the exact depth up there on that flat now, but nevertheless, there's a flat that goes all the way out up toward the next creek. But right here, there's a point that comes out. And you can see how it falls off right here. Now I'm set up right here, that little black dot is where we're at. It looks like I'm way off this point. In reality, I'm not. The map card isn't 100% accurate right here. So what I done is I got up here kind of on this drop and I watched the depth change as it fell off. And when it started to level out, that's when I dropped my anchor. So it looks like we've got a little space here before the ledge starts. In reality, we don't. That's just an error in the map card. It's not 100% accurate in this situation. But nevertheless, we're set up kind of on the bottom. We're actually closer to this tip of the point too than what it shows on the map. But we're kind of set up here off this point in front of this creek, so that as fish work out of the main channel over here, or they work along the contours off the bottom of this flat and head back up in this creek, they're gonna have to swim through our baits in order to get back there. because that's what I want to do. I want to put my baits in a situation that fish that are actively working through to go feed up in the shallow water, they're going to have to swim through us in order to get there. And if they're moving up there to feed anyway, they're already hungry, and we've got an easy meal right here in their face. So this creek here, it's a pretty long creek. You know, again, out here toward the entrance of it, you're looking at 45 feet, but it, you know, moves all the way back and gets progressively shallower as it goes up in there. And this creek, it has bait in it most of the year, but in the fall, you certainly seem to get more skipjack in there typically, although I've had my skipjack rods here with me today, and I launched, I don't know, about 2 miles away downriver and trolled all the way up through here, kind of working the shoreline, and I never had the first tap. I didn't see any skipjack. Now I have seen some, I thought I heard one just then, but there are some like threadfin, some shad flipping occasionally kind of out here toward the channel, but I would assume most of the bait is probably back in the creeks. And what I will do today, whenever I leave, whenever I'm done catfishing, before I head back to the car, I'm gonna just make a lap through that creek, trolling my skipjack rigs, and see if I can get some kind of bait. I have struggled greatly lately to catch skipjack. Everything's kind of been, seems like it's been thrown off this year. We had all that hurricane flood water. They moved down the Tennessee River, and so water levels was really high. We had more current flow for like a dang near a month straight, and it kind of threw everything off. And honestly, I've just failed to adapt to it. I just haven't done particularly well. So we're gonna try to change our fortune out here today. I'm gonna put y'all on the chest. We're gonna go unedited, raw and uncut, unedited, unfiltered. Y'all gonna see it all from right now when we're dropping baits down till whenever I roll out of here to go eat me some lunch here in a few hours. But we're gonna hopefully catch some big fish. In the meantime, I actually fished this spot before I had left to go on my Louisiana trip. So this would have been early October, I guess. I'm trying to think when that Louisiana tournament was. But this would have probably been early October, and it was right after we had all that, the hurricane water. Everything, the water was high. We were having all the flow, and I sat up here and I busted, I think, my biggest fish of the year. If it wasn't my big, it was top 2 for sure. Biggest blue cat of the year on this spot. So I'm very confident in this spot that fish will move through, and we've actually got these solid lines here you can see on the graph. That's my baits. Those squiggles up under there, that's fish. They've come up right there. That one's come up and looked at it, never touched it, obviously. And we'll turn that graph off here in a minute just to save on battery, now that I've showed you kind of on the contour map how we're setting up. This is just a basic 2D graph. There's really no reason to leave it on. I mean, yeah, we'll see little squiggles like that come up and look at our baits, but it ain't not the most detailed. It's just a basic 5-inch graph. I mostly use it for that map card when I'm setting up on places like this, using that map card in conjunction with the 2D, just showing me my depth. It's very helpful. Like this situation, again, the contour map here is not 100% accurate. So if I was just using the map card and didn't have the depth, I'd be setting up more up here, and I wouldn't really be where I want to be. So, you know, it's helpful to have both. That way you can just kind of confirm that you are where you think you are on a particular structure when you're setting up, especially if you're gonna, it's not as important if you are anchoring down and casting your baits out, because you're right, if you anchor down and you cast out, you're kind of fan casting. You're trying to cover a bigger spread of an area. When you do, like I'm doing today, and you're suspend fishing, and you are basically dropping your baits down on a spot. We've got 2 rods out. These are 7-foot long rods, and we've got a little space here, well, a few inches in the middle. So we basically got 14 feet between our baits. you need to be where you think you are, or where you think you need to be is where your baits are at, basically. I can't get my words out, but you know what I'm trying to say. Like, you need to be more precise when you're doing this style of fishing, because you're off by 50 feet. Some days it won't matter. If you got current flow, dispersing your scent, maybe not as big a deal. But if fish aren't super active or they don't know your baits are there, man, you're off by 50 feet. You might as well be off by 50 miles because they're just not going to come get it. So, you know, it's just it's one of them things I've kind of figured out through the years, that if I can put my baits in places that fish are going to work through. You know, I'm a Buck Perry guy. Buck Perry was a bass fisherman, kind of the godfather of structure fishing, if you will. He created most of the terms that people use today in describing structure. Buck believed that fish would move in kind of a predictable fashion. And one of the things he talked about in his teachings was figuring out the contact point of a particular structure. Now, when you hear the word point, we obviously, most of the time, in talking about structure, we think about a point, like I've just kind of described here. You got this point, this landmass that comes out and kind of creates a point, or over on this side, you can see there's another little point right there that comes out. That's not so much what Buck was talking about when he referred to the contact point. When you hear Buck speaking on that, what he meant by contact point was when a fish moved out of deep water, when they're leaving their sanctuary and they're turning on, they're becoming active, they're moving up to go feed, that first place that a fish is going to make contact with a structure, a point, a ledge, a hump, whatever the structure, the first place that fish was going to make contact with it, he referred to as the contact point. And so when I'm suspend fishing like I'm doing today, what I want to do is to try to find that contact point. And sometimes it works out, sometimes it don't, but if you can locate that and get those fish that are first turning on, when they're first starting to move up, and you've got an easy meal for them, you get bit. And fish, depending on the day, some days they're more active than others, right? Like some days, fish will move out of this deep water. And over here behind us, folks, you get out here in the main channel, because the way this, you got the shallow flat up here, it drops off. You've got another kind of little shelf here, if you will, like a deeper flat, and then it drops off to the channel. But you're looking 70, 80 feet out there. Maybe not as much today since water's down a little bit, but still super deep water. Fish that are super active, when they turn on, weather conditions right, water conditions right, they're going to move out of that 70 feet. And they're going to go all the way to the back of this creek. They'll be up there just a few feet deep, right? Like they're going to make a long run, a long move, and they're going to be eating the whole way. That's a really active day. That doesn't happen every day. Sometimes fish are going to move up and they might move up to the top of this flat and sit there. And then, of course, they'll eat on their way up. But that may be as high as they go. Other days, right here where we're at, may be as high as they go. On really inactive days, hell, they might come up to the top of the drop over here out the channel, and that be as far as they go. So, you know, depending on the activity level of the fish, that's going to determine how shallow they move up on a particular day. Them fish aren't living back there in the shallows. They move back there to feed. And that's why typically you don't see me fishing the shallows a lot outside of like a bait run, a carp trip, something like that. When I'm fishing for catfish, if you notice, most of the time I'm fishing deep structure. And the reason for that is because I know fish are deep all the time. You can always catch fish deep. In the shallows, you need kind of the stars aligned for you. Now, sure, they're going to be there's going to be small fish in the shallows all the time. You can go up there and catch you some channel cats, some smaller blues, maybe some smaller flatheads, all the time. They'll be back there regularly. But your larger fish, kind of the trophy specimens, if you will, they're just not, they're not living in the shallows. They're going to retreat to the deeper water, which is, it's a more stable environment for them. When you have weather changes, for instance, like for last night, for instance, we had a little front come through. We had some rain yesterday. Temperatures dropped today. We had a little cold front come through. I'm not big on looking at barometric pressure, but undoubtedly it changed a little bit last night, right? That doesn't really matter when you're fishing deep, because the barometric pressure, the atmospheric changes, that is felt in like the first 15 feet of the water column. Once you go down deeper than that, those minor changes in the atmospheric pressure, these fish don't even notice it. So the deeper water, as long as it's well oxygenated, that's the more stable environment for fish. And so that's where they're going to spend the bulk of their life, in the most stable environment. And that's where I want to put my baits most of the time, at least when I'm catfishing anyway. So that's why I kind of set up how I do typically. That's, you know, when you're picking out a spot like we're doing today, and my plan is we're dropping baits down on this spot. We're going to fish here for 3 or 4 hours. That's my typical trip these days. I fish maybe 4 hours, 5 at the most, usually, outside of a tournament situation where I'm forced to fish longer hours. But on a spot like this, I know fish are coming through here. I know I'm set up in a way that active fish working up into this creek or up onto this point here to get up on this flat, they're coming through here. What I don't know is when they're coming. When are those fish going to turn on? When are they going to become active? When they become active, how far up are they going to move on a particular day? I don't know that. That's the million-dollar question when you go fishing. When is that going to happen? Now, the longer you can put in, let's say we had us a big fancy $80,000 catfish boat, one of them with the bimini tops and couches in them like my buddy Mark has got. You can kick back and relax, grill you a hamburger on that thing, hang on to the side and take a crap over the rail if you need to. I mean, you can just live on them giant boats. Let's say we had us one of them, and we wanted to come out here and ensure that we were going to catch a fish. Well, hell, in that situation, you just set up and put in 24 hours, put in 48 hours on a spot. I promise you get bit. You put in 48 hours on this spot, and you're going to catch a bunch of fish, and you're going to catch some big fish. I don't have one of those boats, and even if I did, I don't have the desire to be camping on a boat. It's just not me. Nothing wrong with it. A lot of people do. It's not me. I like to go out, fish a few hours, and take it to the house. And I'm certainly not going to put in a 24-hour session in a kayak. I'm not going to put in a 10-hour session in a kayak these days. I'm too old for that crap. I just can't stay sitting down that long anymore. So what I have to do is I try to typically fish around kind of well-known peak activity windows. And you always hear me talk about it, you hear other fishermen talk about it, dawn and dusk. You oftentimes get a feeding window around sunrise and sunset. Now, in the winter time, fall and winter months, I don't find that to be true as much. For instance, this time of year, I don't know what today is. Today's November something or another. we're mid-November here now, 14th, 15th, something like that. This time of year, the sunrise bite, it doesn't typically turn on at sunrise. It seems like it's a little later. So like this morning, for instance, it was sunrise before I left my house. I waited a little longer to come out because it seems like the bite kind of turns on a little bit more 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, in that range. It's like that morning bite, the sunrise bite, gets pushed back a little bit. Now, in the winter, and of course part of it too, in the winter months, is I just don't like being out at dawn when it's freezing cold. I typically fish more in the afternoons, but you do still have that kind of sunset bite, it seems like, in the winter months. And two, in the spring and the fall seasons, you're going to have fish move shallower more frequently. They're feeding up in those time periods. In the spring, they're moving up, they're feeding more frequently because they're trying to pack on weight, get ready for the spawn. In the fall, they're moving up and feeding more frequently because they're trying to pack on weight for winter. So either way, you get more shallow movements more frequently. And in those situations, you're liable to have a longer bite when they turn on. You're liable to have bites that maybe happen middle of the day. The bite could turn on any hour of the day. It could do that any day of the year, but it's more so inclined to happen in the spring and the fall than it is going to be, say, summer and winter. You're going to have a better opportunity to catch fish around sunrise, sunset, in those time periods. So, bottom line is this, folks. If you got baits in the water, you always got a chance. But the longer you can have baits in the water, the more likely you are to have success on that particular day. How we're going to fish today and how I normally fish, it does require a little bit of luck. Not so much, it's not luck in how I've set up. There's nothing lucky about that. I use that map card and that graph in conjunction together to set up on a spot that fish are going to work through. There's nothing lucky about that, right? That's just the Buck Perry teachings, having the knowledge of those to understand fish movement. That put me here where I'm at, okay? The luck comes in to being here when those fish are working through. That's what you got to get lucky on. You can put yourself in the right spot, but if you're there at the wrong time, it's all for nothing, because they're just not going to be there. You can't catch fish that aren't there. I don't care how good you are. So we got to get a little bit lucky to have some fish work through this morning while we're out here. But if it happens, if those fish turn on and if they work through here, we're set up where we need to be. And we've got baits down there going to be right in their face. Now listen, in a creek like this, and we got a little bit of water movement today. They're pulling a little bit of water down at the dam because they are actively lowering the water here for winter drawdown, but it's very minimal flow. When you've got a part of the reservoir that's this deep and this wide, they've really got to be moving a lot of water to have any kind of noticeable current flow. But you do have a little water movement, and so you do have a little scent dispersion. There's a light breeze out here right now, and it's actually got me facing upriver because there's not enough flow to offset the wind and keep the kayak facing the other way. But when you're in these creeks, this one here is fairly wide. We could have set up on the other side on that other point over there. It would have given us an opportunity to catch fish that work through, maybe coming from the other direction. If you're in a creek that's a little bit more narrow, you can set up in the middle of it. Drop your baits down right in the middle of it, and especially if you've got some water movement, some current flow dispersing everything, man, you can just catch some fish right there without having to really worry so much about being as precise. But this creek being a little bit wider, we do need to be more precise. We kind of need to pick a side, I feel like, and picking this side, the upriver side, what little flow there is, what little water movement there is down there, it will at least get our scent going that way. So maybe any fish that are working around the other contour and working up in, maybe they get a whiff of our bait, and if they're super active, maybe they come over the 50 yards, whatever, to come get it. So that's something to consider when you're setting up the upriver side versus the downriver side. Typically, I'm going to go upriver side on a creek, something like that. This situation, I'm 9 times out of 10, I'm going to take the upriver side. The exception would be kind of, let's say the downriver side has maybe a more pronounced point. Maybe it has something there. Maybe there's say a tree, a sunken tree that's come to rest there, and you've seen it on your graph, you know it's there. Maybe that situation I'm going to set up there below. Maybe it's a different bottom composition. Maybe the upriver side's mud and the downriver side is rock, or vice versa. And maybe you figured out that you're catching more fish on rocks versus mud, or whatever the situation. Maybe in that situation, maybe you set up on the bottom, but most of the time, again, probably 9 out of 10 times, I'm setting up on the top. So, and that's been successful for me, and I have kind of, when you do something and you have success with it, that builds confidence, which when the next time you go out, you're more likely to repeat what you've done, and then you have success again, and it builds and builds and builds, and then you end up having more confidence in what you're doing, but then the other thing that you haven't done as much, you end up having less confidence in it because of the success and the confidence you've gained in doing what you're doing. So, there's no hard and fast rule. It's not black and white. There's a lot of gray. There's a lot of gray areas when it comes to how you set up and the best methods for fishing and whatnot. And that's true not just of catfish, but of any species. But I like doing this. What we're doing today is not going to be the most productive technique for numbers pretty much ever, especially with how I am only using 2 rods. We'd be better off going to the back of this creek and putting out planer boards on each side, covering that whole daggone creek channel and dragging our way out, right? That's going to put more numbers of fish in your kayak or your boat, whatever you're fishing out of, on any given day, most of the time. But I don't find that to be particularly fun. And if I'm coming out here this morning and I'm going to be cold and not particularly comfortable because I'm cold, well, I want to have, when we do catch fish, I want to have the most fun possible. I want to be hanging on and feeling this kayak tip a little bit and having my butthole pucker and all that. Like, I want that excitement, that thrill. And I don't get that when I definitely don't get it pulling planer boards, but even dragging baits. I enjoy dragging baits. It's fun, but I'm not putting out as much line as most people, so I still get the more intense fight. But it ain't the same. It ain't the same of having, in this situation here, with us being, say, 45 feet deep, we got 42 feet of line out. A catfish fight on 42 feet of line is way more intense than it's going to be if you've got 150 feet, 200 feet, 300 feet of line out, right? Catfish, flatheads are more powerful than blues. The fights are more, I guess they're longer. It's a longer battle with a flathead, pound for pound, than a blue. They're just, I think partly it's the design, the body shape of a flathead. Their tail is more like a paintbrush, certainly, so it's got more, whereas a blue cat's tail's forked, the flathead's tail's like a paintbrush, so when they're moving their tail, there's more water displacement with a flathead's tail versus a blue cat's tail. So there's that, but the flatheads, it's just a more sustained fight. It's a more powerful fight, and it's more intense. The blue cats, they're certainly hard pulling. They fight hard, especially the larger ones, but it don't last as long. You're not going to get a long battle with a blue cat. And so because of that, I don't want to have 100 yards of line out when I hook the thing. Because by the time you got 100 yards of line out, hell, by the time you get it up to the surface, get it to you, the fight's over. Whereas this, we hook a fish right here, man, it's on. And once we get it up to the surface, the fight's still on. So it's more fun. It's more fun. It's not always the most productive. It's not always the best technique on a particular day. But to me, it's more fun. And so if I can do it, most of the time I'm going to. Now, I did have a little bit of a moral dilemma with myself this morning, because I do have a trip coming up to Florida. I've talked about it in previous videos, but it's coming up. I'm leaving out next week to go to Florida. And I need to kind of stockpile some videos now while I'm home to make sure that I don't have a disruption to my YouTube schedule while I'm gone in Florida, because I'm not going to be uploading while I'm down there. I'll be filming, but I'm not going to be uploading because my internet will be slow down there. So I had a little bit of a moral dilemma today. When I left the house, I was like, this is what I want to do. But to ensure that I get a video today, because I mean, if you're seeing this video, folks, an unedited, raw and uncut video that's 3 or 4 hours long, I've caught some fish in it. Rest assured, we've got something today. I don't know when they've bit, but they've bit during this session. We've caught some fish, okay? But let's say we didn't get bit today. Well, I'd go home and I'm not going to post a skunk video or a video with 1 or 2 small fish. So it would have been a lost day as far as YouTube production goes. So I'm at the house this morning, getting ready to leave, and I'm like, oh, do I come out here and do what I want to do and take a bigger risk? Because we could get skunked out here. Again, if there's no fish working through during the time period we're here, guess what? We're skunked. And it happens. I get skunked. Whereas the other thing I thought about doing this morning was getting out my other kayak, dragging some baits, and kind of doing what we're talking about. Go back in one of these creeks, drag our way out. Say we were going to fish here, I'd go to the back of it, drag my way out, turn. Once we got out here, go up this contour, follow it up to the next creek, troll into it, back out. You know, we cover enough water doing that, we're going to run into some fish. And we'll catch some. Now, is it going to be as fun as what I'm doing now if I get bit? No. But from a productivity standpoint, I would probably be able to ensure that I would catch enough fish to get some content, which would help my cause for stockpiling some stuff so that we don't have a disruption when I go to Florida. But I'm having that moral dilemma, that conversation in my head with myself this morning, and it's like, fun, have fun versus be responsible. And it's like, what do you do? And I'm just, I started thinking about it. I was like, I just want to focus on having fun. If I don't get bit, so be it. If I have a disruption to my YouTube schedule, so be it. I don't want to get all morbid and stuff because I do that too frequently on this channel, but we've only got so many trips around the sun, folks. It's coming to an end for all of us. And maybe it's just because I just seen that Uncle Joey from Full House has cancer now. I saw that on the social media earlier. When you see these people, I don't know Uncle Joey from Full House, never met the guy, but hell, I watched the show as a kid. So you kind of feel like they're somebody you know. When you see that, it always makes you take a moment and pause and kind of realize that we're all mortal. We all have an expiration date. And I'm certainly getting to that time frame now where, I hope I got another 40 years left in me. I'm certainly going to try to stay healthy as long as I can and live as long as I can. But I am at that age now, in my early 40s, from this point forward to whenever the end of my life is. Any given day could be my last, not only my last day, that could be the case for any of us. I mean, hell, we could go out and have a car wreck on our way home, something suddenly. But what I mean is, any given day from this point in my life forward could be my last normal day. Meaning, maybe something happens, maybe I get sick, maybe I develop a pain somewhere, and you go, the doc, like Uncle Joey there, I was reading his story a little bit, and he'd been sick, he'd had a cold, had some swelling and some lymph nodes. Went and checked it out, well, guess what, he's got cancer. And now his life, from this point forward, is changed. Prior to him getting what he thought was a cold, it's status quo. Just normal life, living like he normally would. Boom, big change, and now he's forever changed. And I think about that sometimes when I'm planning to do something or having, we're talking about minor things here when it comes to fishing. In the grand scheme of life, fishing doesn't matter one iota. But like today, even though it doesn't matter, I'm at my house this morning thinking about, do I want to come out here and do the type of fishing that I love doing the most? Or do I want to do what's going to ensure that I get a video and put a few extra dollars in my pocket? And when I'm thinking about something like that, and I've got death on my mind, after reading Uncle Joey's story there, well, I'm usually going to pick what's going to be most enjoyable for me, because when my day comes, I hope I don't end up in that situation. Whenever I kick the bucket, I hope it's abruptly. I hope it's fast. I don't want it to be drawn out. I've seen too much of that working as a nurse through the years. I just don't. I don't want that for me. I don't want that for anybody, but I don't want that for me. But when I think about stuff like that, I'm always like, I should do what's going to make me happy, because I don't know how many more days I've got left to do this. I hope I got 40 plus years left to do this. I hope. Again, I'm going to try. I work very hard at keeping myself healthy and in shape and to hopefully buy myself time, but you just never know. It doesn't matter what you do. Again, we're all ticking time bombs at the end of the day. It's something's going to get us all. I ain't trying to be all morbid and stuff on here. I ain't trying to do that. I tend to get on this once or twice a month, it seems like I get on a talk about this. But where I was going with it, we all, I think if we could choose, we would all live to 100, live healthily up to about age 100, and then die peacefully in our sleep. That would be what we would all choose. That's what I would certainly choose. But in reality, it don't work out that way most of the time for most people. And I've seen it enough working in healthcare, especially working ER. I mean, I've seen it so many countless times where a person gets up, they start their day just like any other, and something happens. Car wreck, heart attack, a stroke. They get some pain in their stomach and go to the ER, and you've got some cancer, it turns out. There's just something happens, and it forever changes their life. And again, every day that you live, you're one day closer to that. And I know that's a pessimistic way of looking at things, but I don't think it's necessarily, I mean, if you dwell on stuff like that, it becomes unhealthy. But if you just periodically stop and think about it once in a while, and that helps guide you to make decisions that are going to be such decisions that will help you live a better life, then maybe you take something that's negative and pessimistic and you turn it into something positive in that situation. So, again, we'll drop that old death topic, and hopefully Uncle Joey survives. The article said he's going through chemo, but his life is forever changed. Now, if he comes out of this on the other side, maybe it gives him a new perspective, and maybe the rest of his life is more fulfilling because he won't take it for granted as much. I'm guilty as anybody of taking life for granted just in the normal day-to-day. Maybe he comes out on the other side and ends up having a better, more fulfilling life afterwards. I hope that's the case for him. Again, I don't know the guy, I never met him, but I enjoyed Full House as a kid, so you kind of feel like you know him. He wasn't very good on that show. You remember there was, there was two shows. There was America's Funniest Home Videos. That was the funny one. And then there was the other one that Uncle Joey hosted, Dave Coulier. And it wasn't funny. But I can't remember what that show was called. But nevertheless, I mean, he was played an iconic role. Everybody remembers Uncle Joey from Full House. I don't remember how long that show ran as a kid. I remember I was in love with DJ Tanner when I was a kid. I mean, DJ was hot when I was a kid. As an adult, I think I would probably take Stephanie now. But as a kid, DJ. But I don't remember how long the show ran for. It used to be on TGIF, on Channel 6, ABC. Friday nights, you would have a series of shows. You'd have Full House, Step by Step. That show Dinosaurs was on there for a little while. Family Matters, Steve Urkel. You had these shows on Friday night, and of course this was back before. Oh, look right here. We got a fish right here. Is that a flathead? Is that a flathead, folks? We've just got a little bit of weight on that rod. Little bit of weight right there. That's a flathead, buddy. That's a flathead. I don't want to pick up on that rod too soon and lose him. Let me show you right there. You see him on the screen? That red mark? That's him. Yep, we got him. Flathead. Guarantee you. I hope he stays buttoned too. Oh, he's going to run now. He knows he's hooked now, folks. All right. I was hoping we might bust a flathead today. It's that time of year I start getting them more. October, November, typically good months for me for flatheads. And obviously I can't prove this is the flathead till we get him up here and get a look at him, but that bite, I never felt him. I just saw a little bit of weight on my rod tip. That's classic textbook flathead. I haven't caught very many flatheads this year. I haven't done as much suspend fishing this year. I've been doing the tournament scene and all that, obviously. Those situations, I've got to do what's best for catching fish during that time period. My normal fun fishing, I don't care if I get skunked. I don't want to get skunked ever, but if it happens, so be it. Again, I'd rather catch fish doing what's most fun to me versus necessarily the most productive thing. Boy, he's fighting hard. But because I haven't done as much fishing like this year, I haven't caught as many flatheads. So this one's going to be a nice treat to myself this morning, this cold East Tennessee morning. Come on, Flatty, get up here. I want to get a look at you. Back down he goes. Man, these things, I'll tell you, they fight harder than a blue, pound for pound. Yep, there he is, flathead. That's a nice one too, buddy. Nice flathead. Nice, buddy. On the chunk. Skipjack chunk, paying off big. That is a big flathead. Nice. My trip's made, y'all. Look right there. We got him on top of the mouth too, buddy. Right there in the roof of the mouth. That upper lip. Nice. Nice, folks. What are we here? 40-something minutes in? 40-something minutes into the trip. Busted old Flatty. My trip's made, y'all. My trip is made. I hope we catch more fish. But I'm going home happy today regardless now, folks. I got a left-handed glove here on the right hand. Gotta get me some more gloves, put in this kayak. All right, let's see if we can land him. Come over here, Flatty. That's a good one, buddy. That's a good one right there. Look at that old ugly thing right there, man. Boy, he's got the face a mother could love. Only a mother could love, don't he? Let me set y'all up here in the front seat there while I land this thing. Hey, come here now. Don't get all camera shy on me. He's getting camera shy, folks. He's embarrassed to be on camera today. I got him though. He's coming in. Okay. This makes my day. This makes my day, folks. Any day you get a big flathead like this, it's a good day. And had I been dragging like I talked about doing, the likelihood of me busting a flathead today would have been slim to none. But doing what I'm doing, while certainly a risk that I could get skunked from fish not being active while I'm here, when they are, just paid off big. Look how yellow he is. Nice, man. Nice. Let me hold him like that so you can see him. Love it. Oh man. I wish we had some better lighting out here. It's so cloudy and dreary. Let me show you his belly too. Look how the yellow goes all the way down his belly there too. Nice, man. Oh, I love it. You are an awesome, awesome flathead. Nice. Okay. Let's send you packing, good buddy. There he goes. How you going? I'll fist pump that one all day, buddy. Heck yes. Heck yes, man. All right. Well, let's sit back down here and put us another bait on. Here's our situation with the bait. Like I said, I've struggled to get bait. And my last trip, should have been my last video there, I did an ultralight session. And I've got us some bluegill here, live ones. I've got some live bluegill and I've got some bluegill in our cooler. But I caught one skipjack during my ultralight session. And so that's what we had cut up here first thing. And so we're going to cut another chunk of it. We can get 2 more baits out of this. And then we'll switch over to the bluegill. I've got so much more confidence in skipjack than I do bluegill, especially when we're only fishing 2 rods. If we were running 4 rods, like in my other kayak, let me try this. Cut this fin off too. If we were running 4 rods and suspending 4 baits, well, I'd go ahead and put some bluegill out. Well, we'd have to because we only got 1 skipjack. But when you've only got two baits in the water, man, I want to have premium baits as much as possible. And skipjack's a premium bait on the Tennessee River anytime. But right now, especially. So we're going to stick with the skipjack here while we got it. As the morning goes on, we'll have to switch over to bluegill, but right now, we're going to leave that other head, we're going to leave it down there. Thankfully, I don't want to jinx this. Thankfully, nothing's messed with that head. So here's our next bait. You can see there, another chunk. What oftentimes happens when you've got a limited amount of bait is small dinks will sit down there and peck and chew, and they'll chew up your head baits. This one hasn't been messed with, so it should still be in good condition other than probably just having leached out some of the blood and the oils. So we're going to leave it down there until something messes with it. We may leave it out there all 3 or 4 hours that we fished today, folks. I'm not opposed to it. I've done that before. But we do have the bluegill. They're still alive in my bucket there that we caught there on the ultralight session. When we switch over to bluegill, probably what we'll do is put on a live one and a cut one. That way we'll have both options down there. Just right now, for sure, while it's still kind of early in the morning, I want the skipjack out. I don't even know what time it is now. Let me see. See what time it is. 9/24 right now. It's November 15th is the date. So yeah, so we're kind of in that. It's early. It's, how do you describe it? It's not dawn. It's not like 6, 7 o'clock in the morning, sunrise, but we're still at early morning. But this is typically this time of year when I have my better bite. 8, 9, 10, 11 o'clock range versus butt crack of dawn. Yeah, I saw that broad tip just sitting there, and I'm like, that's a flat. I knew right away. I knew when I saw it that was a flathead. It was just so textbook characteristic bite. Now we could see him there. I hope I had the camera pointed right. You could see that mark even on the 2D. You could see him when he had that bait down there. Here's what I am going to do though, folks. Again, I've showed you how we've set up and explained it. You can see what our baits look like. See, they're 2 or 3 feet off bottom right there, them solid lines. That's the graph picking up our baits. And my transducer on this kayak is right here. It's off this mount in front of this rod holder. So it's picking up both of them baits down there, right there under us. But at this point, you've seen everything there is to see. Water temp's 65 degrees. The water temp's hanging in here, even though it's significantly colder than that this morning. But what I'm gonna turn this graph off now. I'm just gonna save on battery. I use a smaller battery with this graph and this kayak, and you know, for the longest time I didn't have a graph on this kayak because I don't like dealing with all the wires and batteries and stuff, but I try to only charge that battery about once a month. And so if I don't run the graph very long, I can get significantly more use out of the battery between charges. So when I'm in this kayak, I like to try to keep things as simple as possible. Basic graph, 2 rods, I got a dumbbell for an anchor, and that way when I get home, I unhook the kayak from the car, I'm done. My other kayak, my Hobie, with the motor and the live scope and all that crap, and the new kayak that I just got, the Bonafide, once I get it all set up and everything, man, when I get home with that kayak, or either one of those kayaks, you gotta plug in your battery chargers, charge everything, and it's just, I know it don't seem like a big deal. You're like, oh, Justin, what are you griping about, man? How long does it take to plug in some battery chargers? It doesn't take long. It's just, I can't, it's just, I don't know. I just don't like doing it. That's all I can say about it. I just don't like doing it. I'd rather just, and well, I'll tell you what I need to do right now. Look at this. I gotta lock down my pedal drive. I pedaled all the way up through here with that thing not locked down. I drove over here today with that thing not locked down. This is the first trip I have used this kayak since I fished in Louisiana. And so when I got home, because I'd been down there kind of in the brackish water my last day in Louisiana, I come home, I cleaned everything, I washed everything off, took the pedal drive out, sprayed it off real good. And I guess I put it back in, I forgot to latch it down. So thankfully I didn't lose it on the drive over here today. This is the first time I fished in this kayak though in about, well, over a month, I guess, because right there's something splashing in front of us. Is that skipjack right there that had come up? Something was busting some shad right there. Well, I'm trying to untangle my skipjack thing here, and I'm making it worse. Was that skipjack right there, folks? I've still got, hell, I ain't gonna be able to make a cast to find out. There we go. Let's make some cast right here. There was another little shad flipping right there. They're near the surface over this deep water, but man, how awesome would it be if we could bust a skipjack right here, a fresh one? super fresh, I'd have a real dilemma. Do I put him on live or do I cut him up? I'd probably cut him up just to get more baits out of him. I thought there'd be a good chance of me catching some skipjack as I trolled up through here this morning, because oftentimes this time of year I get them out kind of in front of these creeks, in the creeks or in front of them. And today it just wasn't nothing happening. I ain't seen nothing more jump right there though. Make a few more casts. May have just been a small number of them work through or chase some shad or something. Skipjacks has been tough lately. They've been real tough. I think the water change and the amount of current flow and the high water we had from the hurricane floodwaters they worked through, I think it just kind of, I mean, I'd been struggling before that with skipjack, honestly. I'd been kind of get on them one day and off them the next. I couldn't get anything consistent happening all year with them. But it seems like for sure that the hurricane floodwaters they moved through just really messed up the typical pattern, the typical fall pattern for skipjack. It hasn't materialized for me anyway. I can't speak for others, but for me, the places that I normally get them and what I typically do to get them, it just hasn't panned out this year. And so I just kind of had to get lucky here and there to get them. And we're out there on that ultralight trip. That was 2 days ago. I'd hoped to fish yesterday, but the rain lasted longer than what I had hoped it would. And so I ended up not going yesterday. I'd hoped what I initially planned on doing, I talked about it in the ultralight trip that was 2 days ago. I'd hoped that the rain would move out early yesterday and I could fish yesterday afternoon, but it lingered. And so between that and the wind being up a little bit yesterday as that front was coming through, I ended up just waiting until today. But we got lucky while I was ultralight fishing and just got that one skipjack. And I'm like, great, we got 4 baits. We got 4 chances at a big cat then for sure. But I didn't end up getting any crappie, any yellow bass, any drum, anything. I caught a smallmouth and some largemouth while I was ultralight fishing, but they were all too small to keep. I need to go purchase me another cast net. I lost one cast net while I was in Louisiana. And I went and bought another one down there. And the first time I threw it when I got home, well, I caught some shad, but the first session that I was throwing it, I lost it. And it hung in a stump or something. I pulled and pulled and pulled. I could not get the thing out. So I got to get me another net. Well, if that was a skipjack that come up and was busting there briefly, they seem to be gone now. I ain't seen them no more, and we ain't had so much as a peck at these jigs. Make one more cast over here. My skipjack rig here, I've got just bass rods, spinning rods. 7 foot, I think they're 7 foot. I can't ever remember. 6.5 or 7 foot. What's that say? 7 foot, medium heavy. I've got 30-pound Power Pro braid. I get my words out. Struggling today. 30-pound braid from a main line. I got 15-pound fluorocarbon leader, and I've got 2 jigs tied on. It's 1/8 ounce size jig heads. I got white and chartreuse crappie magnets. And got that second one tied on with a little sabiki knot up there. That's what I catch most of the skipjack on throughout the year. And I just coming up through here, I trolled 2 of them off the back as I was making my way along, because typically I catch most of my skipjack trolling. And in this kayak, when I'm pedaling, my normal pedaling speed is 2.5 to 3 miles an hour, so it's just a ideal trolling speed. And I'll just run them rods behind me as I travel along, going place to place, and pick off some bait usually, but it just didn't happen today. I will though, like I mentioned there, I think earlier when we got started, when I leave here catfishing today, before I go back, I'll make a lap. Just go down this creek all the way to the back, turn around, come out, and see if I can't run into some skipjack back in there somewhere. And if I can, then we'll probably try to do some catfishing tomorrow. If I can't, then I'm probably going to go carp fishing tomorrow. Because while the catfish bite has been a struggle for me, and the bait bite has been a struggle for me, I've been getting some good carp and buffalo. So I kind of want to do that. But if we can get us some bait, some skipjack anyway. I mean, we've got bluegill. We got enough bluegill here. I kept several. We can bait a hook, but if we can get some good quality catfish bait, I'll do another catfish session tomorrow. If not, we're going to do some carp fishing on the next trip. But yeah, I think this is my first trip back in this kayak since I had went to Louisiana. Because when I got back from Louisiana, I bought the Hobie Lynx, which I'm going to be taking to the beach with me next week when I go. And so I'd been the trips that I would normally take this kayak for, I've been taking the Hobie Lynx instead to kind of get used to it, just get comfortable in the seat, because once I'm down there in the ocean, I'm going to need to be firing on all cylinders. You're hooking big fish and working around them bridges and stuff and the current down there. Like, I need to be comfortable in that kayak. So I've wanted to get some seat time in it. And so I've left this kayak at home and taken that one instead for the trips that I would have typically used this one. Like my ultralight trips, I've historically preferred this kayak. Although the Hobie Lynx is it's a very fun platform to fish off of. I mean, ultralight or anything else, it's a nice platform. This right here, though, this is the Old Town Big Water kayak. This is my favorite kayak of all time. And I mean, it's very well built. It's very sturdy as far as the quality of the hull. Not going to have any issues of durability in this thing. I much prefer this pedal drive, the bicycle style motion, to the Hobie stepping motion. It's way more comfortable for me. I can do it for longer periods of time. This kayak it's stable enough. I can stand up, cast for skipjack here. I can land big fish without fear of falling over or tipping over. I can anchor down in current speeds that are suitable for anchoring. I'm not going to go out and anchor down a 3 mile an hour current in this kayak, but hell, I wouldn't want to. Once current's more than about 1 mile an hour, I really don't want to anchor a kayak, period. It's too much risk. So, but I mean, 1 mile an hour and less current, I can easily anchor this. I can do everything that I want to do in this kayak, but at the same time, it's a small enough platform, at least width-wise, that you still get the excitement of catching big fish. And my Hobie Pro Angler, it's so big and so wide. Sure, it's fun to catch fish in it, but it's not as fun as this, because the big takedowns, kayaks, it's wider. It's not going to lean as far. You're not going to get that, oh crap, my kayak's going downfield. You don't get that as much. And of course, now I got this Bonafide XTR 130. It's sitting on my carport now. I'm going to get it out whenever I get the new trailer, which hopefully be here when I get back from Florida. It's even wider and more stable than the Hobie, so you're going to lose some of that kayak fishing. I guess the best way to describe it, it's what drew me to kayak fishing to begin with, you kind of lose the bigger your kayak gets. And this kayak still allows me the opportunity to enjoy kayak fishing for the reasons why I fell in love with it, but still give me a big enough platform, a stable enough platform to do anything I want. Really, the only thing I can't do in this kayak is I can't run more than about 2 rods. This one, if you notice, you see how I've got these rod holders mounted? There's a flat area here, and this is very thick. The plastic here, it's one of the thickest parts of the plastic of this hull, because if for long-term storage purposes, they recommend flipping this kayak upside down. So you'd be essentially resting it here. And so because of that, this is really thick plastic. And so this flat area here, I mounted my rod holder bases, and with that front hatch, I can get my hand up under here to over here. That way I can put in a washer and a nut there on those bolts. And with the plastic, it was so thick when I drilled into it that I didn't end up doing any kind of backing plate. I just used a larger diameter washer there on them bolts, and that's secure. Y'all have seen me catch some huge fish in this kayak the last few years, and it holds up very well. I have no concerns whatsoever of the rod holder or the kayak failing there. So it's a good place. It's a good place for those rod holders. Having it kind of forward, kind of in line with the bar where your pedal drive connects into, it keeps you from your pedals and your feet hitting the rods. As if you had it further, if you had it here, or you had it, I wouldn't want to mount it on these tracks anyway, but if you had it back here, then your rod butts would be encroaching in on your pedals, and they'd be in the way of your feet. But up here, oh, we had a little tap. But a little love tap there. But anyway, having them far enough up here, they're out of the way of your feet and your pedals, but they're still close enough that you can easily reach them. So I really like that about this kayak. But the downside is, while it's good in the front and I can easily mount them there securely, when you look behind us, there's really no good place to mount a rod holder back here. This would be ideal, but they put these molded in ones here in from the factory. So you've already got a hole there. So that doesn't really work out. This part is kind of slanted, and then you get back here, you've got your gear tracks. Now I did think about utilizing the gear tracks for half of the base of the rod holder and drilling in here so that 2 bolts would be secured and the other 2 on the base, and that should be good enough. But if you put a rod holder base here, you're going to lose part of your tank well, because again, the rod butt encroaching in, it's going to encroach in back here. And this tank well in this kayak, it's kind of small. I mean, I've got my bait tank and the smaller cooler here today, or I can run my larger Yeti back here. But you can't have it all. So I've just kind of settled in with this kayak of just running 2 rods only. I mean, when I'm bait fishing, I'm only going to troll 2 rods anyway. When I'm catfishing, would it be nice to have a third or fourth rod down? Sure. Like right now, if we had a third or fourth rod option, we could go ahead and put them bluegill on. We could try a live one, we could try a cut one, and we would have 4 different types of baits out right now. But with that said, I've caught a lot of fish in this kayak with just using 2 rods. You know, it's kind of one of them things, like if you're where you need to be when you need to be there, 2 rods is going to be plenty because you're going to have enough action to keep you entertained. If you're not at the right place at the right time, or you're in the wrong place and you ain't catching fish no way, well, it don't matter if you got 8 or 10 rods out. You can't catch fish that ain't there. So, I like this kayak. I like it a lot. It's easily, of all the kayaks I've had, and I've owned several through the years, this one's my favorite. And so, I'd kind of thought, like, if I really liked the Lynx, that maybe I would use it as kind of my, and it is kind of my grab and go kayak at this point, because I literally grab it and go. I don't haul it on a trailer. I just put it in the back of the truck and go. Whereas this one, I did take this one to Louisiana in the back of the truck. I didn't haul the trailer down there for this one, but this kayak is heavy enough that, like, I want to haul it on a trailer. I mean, it's light enough I can launch it anywhere. You take the pedal drive out, the hull is, I think, 98, 99 pounds. So it's manageable. I can drag it places. But you sure as hell don't drag it as easily as what I drag that Hobie Lynx that's 47 pounds. So I prefer having the trailer with this one. But part of me had thought, if I really like that Lynx and things work out with it, then maybe I would let this one go. But I don't know that that's going to happen, because I do like this one. And I haven't figured out a good way to be able to mount rod holders securely for catfishing to the Lynx. It's not as big a deal when you're casting lines out, but this suspending baits, when you get a big fish, nail that rod and take off at that downward pressure, when you've got downward pressure on your rod tip, it's creating upward pressure on your rod holder and your rod holder base. And so that's why it's got to be very secure on your kayak. That's why I don't like these gear tracks, because there's flex in here when you get that kind of torque, and it'll eventually either work the screws or the bolts loose. There ain't no bolts in any of these. They're all screwed in. Now, Old Town, these right here, you screw those in, it's brass inserts in there that those screw into. Most kayaks, though, their gear tracks will just be screwed into the plastic of the hull. And over time, that flexing, that torquing, it will work them free and they'll get loose. And so I don't like that setup. I want to mount my rod holders securely just because of how I fish. If I didn't suspend fish, it wouldn't be as big a deal, but because I do, they gotta be secure. And I don't have a good way. You can't drill into the hull of that Hobie Lynx. Just the material of it, you just can't do it. And so I don't have a really good way to mount rod holders securely to it. Now, for what I really want that kayak for beach trips, not gonna matter, because I'm not gonna be fishing like that. Ultralight trips, again, doesn't matter. I'm not gonna be fishing like that. So my number one purpose of that kayak is it's good for what I want it for. I had just thought, if I could mount rod holders to it securely, and I did enjoy fishing out of it, which I do, maybe it might replace this one. And I don't think that's going to happen. This kayak, it's a good size for me. The other kayak I had that was comparable size to this, as far as length, width, stability, and all that, was my Hobie Outback. And longtime viewers, you have watched me catch a lot of fish in that Hobie Outback. I had it from like, I can't remember when I got it, 2015 or 2016. And I had it up through, I think I sold it in 2019, because that's when I got my Hobie Pro Angler. So I had it like 3.5 years, let's say. Caught a bunch of fish in it. Enjoyed fishing out of it, but I've talked about this a lot, the Hobie pedaling motion I don't care for. I like this style better. But just the hull itself of that kayak, this kayak is way more comfortable just sitting. Like, you know, throw out the pedaling part to get where you're going. Once you're set up on a spot, you're anchored down, this kayak is way more comfortable. The seat's better. It sets up higher, which is important for somebody like me. As a taller person, I want my knees and hips as close to aligned as possible. And the Hobie Outback, you set down really close, even with the seat in the highest position. You were only like a few inches off the floor of the kayak. So, and the seat was kind of, the seat part of this part, it wasn't very far out. So you ended up, you were kind of, it just wasn't comfortable to set in long periods of time. That's what I'm getting at. So while I enjoyed the kayak, as Airplane Man goes over, always Airplane Man, Helicopter Man, somebody's going to make an appearance. I don't think we'll have Leaf Blower Man or Lawnmower Man today because of the being so cold and everything's so wet from the rain. But here comes Airplane Man, by gosh. But the Hobie Outback, it was, I liked it a lot from the platform perspective. It was again, it was wide enough to be stable, to throw a cast net, to land big fish, but it was still small enough that you could get the big takedown and enjoy it and get kind of pulled around a little bit when you got a big fish. That's fun. I enjoy that. But from a comfort perspective, these two kayaks, the Hobie Outback and this Old Town Big Water, being comparable size, comparable weight, I'd take this one 7 days a week over the Hobie Outback. No question. The only real issue I've had with this kayak since I've got it, and I got this in 2021, so over 3 years now I've had this particular kayak. And I've had it everywhere from small creeks that I've had to paddle this thing, which you can do. You can paddle. You're not going to be paddling the Bonafide. I'm not paddling the Hobie Pro Angler. I can paddle this if I need to. But I've had it from small creeks out in the ocean. Man, this kayak is so versatile. I call it the jack of all trades. It's not particularly great at anything, but it's kind of good at just about everything. So it's definitely my preferred. The only issue I've had with it, though, since I've gotten it, is the seat. Well, no, it's been longer than a month. I was going to say last month. It's been back in the summer, I guess. I'm pedaling along one day, and my seat just falls apart. The fabric, the stitching gave way under here. And so you can see I've had to zip tie the seat, this part of the seat around the bar. I've had to zip tie it. And I went ahead, this side, it was this side that the stitches come loose. But I went ahead and done this side too, because I figured it was going to be next. But I had the whole damn, I'm just pedaling along. All of a sudden, just the butt falls through. I guess it was a sign from the universe I need to lose some weight or something. I don't know. But the zip ties, it's working out. It's holding up well. It's ridiculous that I had to do that. I reached out to Old Town's customer service, and I thought they'd sell a replacement to this fabric that goes around the seat frame. Most companies do. And I thought, if it wasn't covered under warranty, I could just buy the fabric for 30 bucks or something. Nope, they don't sell the fabric. Got to buy a whole new seat. I think if memory serves me, I think it was $192. 172 or 192, I think it was. I can't remember. I think it was 192 because it was close to 200 bucks. Yeah, they wanted to sell me a seat for $200. I was like, you can kiss my ass. I ain't paying that. So I posted online. I thought maybe there might be a aftermarket seat fabric kit or something, but most people that have had this problem, and apparently it is a common problem because a lot of people replied to my post in the Old Town Facebook group, but most people are getting a sewing thread and sewing it back together. I tried that, but turns out sewing's a lot more difficult than our grandmas led us to believe. I mean, I'd stay with my great-grandma as a kid, and she used to sew quilts. She'd have her friends come over, and they'd sit there and chit-chat and stuff while they would sew quilts. I'd build forts, man. My grandma, she'd have them, hell, I don't even know what they are, sewing frames, quilting frames, whatever they'd run the quilts over. And they'd have the fabric all stretched out there, and they'd be stitching and stuff. I'd have me a fort built under that thing when I was a kid. But it's a lot more difficult than what you would think. At least it was for me. So I tried sewing it for about 10 minutes, and I give up, and I said, I'm going to zip tie that thing. And the zip ties have held up. It's not the prettiest thing. I think it's ridiculous. I honestly think it's ridiculous that Old Town wouldn't just send me a seat. And I ain't trying to get nothing for free. Yeah, I'm not that guy. I'm not reaching out to companies and being like, hey, you should give me this for free because I have a YouTube channel. I'm not doing that. Sometimes companies reach out to me and we work deals, but I'm not reaching out to companies trying to prostitute myself. Something, we got thumped right there. He's got it. He's got it. We're on the chunk. He's got it then. He thumped it, man. He got hit. This could go either way. This could be a blue or a flathead. We felt the thump. I'm pretty sure it's the blue right here. I think he's rolling. Another one on the chunk, though. I hope he leaves it on the hook. I hope he leaves it on, because if he don't, we're going to be down to our last piece. He's not going to be very big either. He's fighting like he's big, but he ain't going to be very big. Yeah, that's a blue right there. I first felt that thump, I got excited, because sometimes in flatheads inhaling the bait, you'll feel the thump. But the way it bolted off, I was like, it could probably going to be a blue. He ain't done yet. We're going to have to play him out a second. Don't be coming over here splashing me, fish. It's too cold for that. I'm underdressed to be splashed. It's supposed to be, I think, low 50s today for the highs. It's 40-something when I got out here this morning, so I should have worn my bibs. My upper layer is okay. It's the lower layer that I'm underdressed on. I'm probably a few inches shorter in the important part of my body just because of not having warmer pants on. That's inappropriate to talk about that, ain't it, fish? I shouldn't be. It's inappropriate to bang your head on the side of the kayak too, fish. You ain't getting no front camera time, buddy. You out of luck. There you go. Let's hold you up like that. He's a larger dink, man. He's got some length to him. You can see he's got a little bit of a belly on him. Got some mud going down his back there. He's been down in the mud recently. This weather system that moved through yesterday may have kind of threw them off a little bit potentially. Let's get our last piece of skipjack. He didn't leave it on the hook, so we'll put on one more piece of skip, and then we're going to be going to bluegill after that. Some of yous like these tails. I'm not a big tail person. I'd rather just use the bluegill than the tail, so we'll just toss that out. To each their own. If you got confidence in them tails, then use them, by gosh. Me, I want the meat and the head, and if I don't have that, then I'm just going to use a different bait. All right, let's send this back down. Our final piece, final body piece anyway. We still got our head down there. And we're leaving it down there too, buddy. It still ain't been even tapped. Not a channel cat, not a dink blue, nothing's even pecked at it. So other than the fact that it's just been soaking for however long we've been out here, it should be in pretty good condition. Okay, we're back in the game again, both rods down. What was I talking about? Oh, the seat. But yeah, you know, I'm not reaching out to companies playing the YouTube card, right? Like, I'm just not that guy. If I want something, I'll buy it. If a company reaches out to me, I'm gonna kick back and relax here, folks. Put my feet up, rest a while. If a company reaches out to me, we can certainly work a deal. I had worked a deal with Old Town there years ago. They sent me their Old Town Autopilot kayak, and they sent me this one that I'm in, actually. They don't like me anymore because I didn't say I spoke negatively about the Old Town Autopilot, but when I had issues with the motor, I shared that with you, the audience, and I guess it didn't go over well because now they don't respond to emails anymore, and that's probably why I didn't get taken care of when I had the seat issue. But it is pretty dumb, I think, on their part to not take care of my seat. I mean, I would have gladly paid $30 for the fabric to put around the seat frame. But I'm not going to spend $200 on a new seat because the seat itself is fine. It was just the fabric that ripped. And so this seat, $200 retail, which included the shipping to get it to me, which is I would say the shipping probably costs more than what it cost them to make the seat. That's just my guess, but you all know at this point how high shipping charges are these days. So let's just go on the high end and say maybe at most they've got $50 total to send me a new seat. Between shipping, their production costs, everything. I don't think it's $50. And as much stuff as Old Town ships, I'm sure they've probably got deals with the shipping companies where they get a reduced rate just from the volume of stuff that they ship. So it probably doesn't cost them $50 in total cost to make and ship a seat, but let's just say for the sake of this conversation that it does. I don't think it'd be any higher than that for sure. So $50 out of pocket, it would have cost Old Town to send me a new seat. In exchange for that $50, I would have then come on these videos, and when I'd be talking about the kayak, if conversation just led into it like today, I would certainly mention that my seat fell apart, but how great Old Town's customer service was and how they took care of me. Instead, And that's worth something, folks. When you're reaching this number of people that I reach, now granted, this time of year, we're into fall now, I don't reach as many people this time of year as what I do in the spring and the summer. As a fishing channel, you typically get more views in the warmer months when most people are fishing, not so much in the fall and winter, but still, I still reach a large number of people. But me talking about a positive customer service experience for the thousands and, well, really millions of people that I reach, because I get 8, 10, 12 million views a year. I don't know how many I'm getting this year. It's a lot, though. I mean, hell, last few months I've been over 1 million views a month, even as we've gotten into fall. So nevertheless, you reach a lot of people. And if you're reaching a lot of people and you're talking about a positive experience, and somebody was maybe on the fence about, do they buy an Old Town or a different brand or whatever, and they hear my testimony, if you will, about a good customer service experience, that may push them over the edge to buying that kayak. How much is that worth? Is that worth $50 for the number of people I reach? I would think so. I mean, go online, try buying Facebook ads or YouTube ads. See what you're going to pay to reach a certain number of people. That's for a commercial. That's not like a real world first person experience from somebody that the audience trusts. And a lot of you that have followed me for years, you trust me because you know I'm going to shoot straight with you. So I've built a trust, I've built a rapport with people in my audience. So if Old Town had took care of me with the seat situation, I come on here and yeah, I'm going to tell you my seat fell apart, but this is what they've done to make things right. I think it moves the needle a little bit for the people that are on the fence. But instead what happened, because they chose to save that $50 and try to stick it to me, to try to get me to pay $200, so they can basically get for $150 profit they was trying to get. Look how much negative publicity they've got from that now. Because now I come on here, I talk about my seat falling apart. Now I talk about the trouble that I've went through, and now I've had to zip tie the damn thing. And now every time I take this kayak somewhere and somebody comes up, whether if I'm at a boat ramp, sometimes people come up and want to talk with me. Sometimes it's because they recognize me from YouTube. Other times it's just because they're out there, they're fishing off the bank or something. Maybe they're interested in kayak fishing. They see somebody with a kayak, like, oh, let me check this out. And they come up and they ask questions, they look around and stuff. Well, now every time I'm in this kayak, there was another splash. I don't know what that was. Let me make some more cast right quick with that skipjack rod. But now every time somebody comes up and they look at this kayak, what's the first thing you're going to notice? If you walk up and you're looking at a kayak that's got the seat being held together with zip ties, what's the first thing you're going to notice? You're going to be like, the first question I get asked now when somebody sees this kayak, it ain't nothing about the kayak, the pedals, how stable is it, how fast is it. That's not what I'm asked anymore. Well, you got them zip ties on your seat. That's the first thing people notice. And I have to say, well, my seat fell apart and I had to zip tie it back together because I didn't want to pay $200 for a whole new seat. That's what I tell people. And so now you take that same customer or potential customer who was on the fence about maybe buying this kayak or buying another brand, and they're seeing my kayak with the zip-tied seat, or they're hearing me talking a video about my experience with trying to get price gouged for $200 when I don't. It'd be different if my seat fell apart. If I needed a whole damn seat, that's one thing. I don't. I just need the fabric. That's all I need. So, but regardless, you take that potential customer now and they hear that and they're like, man, boy, Old Town's customer service. And listen, I'm not talking bad necessarily about Old Town's customer service. They were very good when I had the problems with the Old Town autopilot. I had 2 issues with the motor. Both had to have warranty replacements, and they took care of it very quickly. but the seat was not in warranty. The Old Town warranty, it's a lifetime warranty on the hull, meaning if there's something, it's worded in such a way, limited lifetime warranty. If you just wear and tear or damage the hull, they're not going to replace it. If there's some manufacturing defect, maybe I plop my fat butt down in the seat and the deck cracks or something, they would replace the hull for a lifetime on that. The pedal drive system is 5 years, which is a pretty awesome warranty. That's how you know you're not going to have problems with an Old Town pedal drive, because they wouldn't have a 5-year warranty if they were having to replace them often. And I've not had any issues out of the pedal drive in 3 years now. But it's 5 years. But the seat, only 1 year on the warranty. So, yeah. So when I called, and I've had the kayak 3 years, and the seat just randomly falls apart. Like, well, you're just out of luck. It's out of warranty. And again, it's one of them things, like I had emailed twice the marketing person that had hooked me up with the autopilot and this one, and they don't respond. Like, I'm completely ghosted, man. They, ever since I wouldn't even say I spoke negatively about the autopilot, but when they sent me that kayak, it was explained to me that they wanted me to share my experience, good and bad, with my audience. And so I did. I shared the good and the bad. I wasn't just bashing them. I wasn't trashing their product, but I told people when I got the kayak on day one, the motor tore up. It got warranty replaced. And a few months later, the motor, the replacement motor, the steering mechanism went out. And I told people about that. So, I mean, I wasn't just going out of my way to bash them, but every product, every company has good things and bad things about it. And if you say to these influencers, or myself in this situation, that you want to share you want them to give honest feedback, then you got to give honest feedback. You got to share the good and the bad. But if you want a biased review, then that should be explained up front. Be like, hey, we're going to give you this, we're going to pay you X amount, and we don't want you to say anything negative. And that needs to be stated up front. And I'm not going to take a deal like that, because I'm not going to put a price tag on my integrity if I have a bad experience with something. I want to be able to share that. Now, it's one thing, I mean, if these Chinese companies send me an electric bike, I mean, how much of me riding one lap around my yard racing the dog, I can't give a good or bad impression of that either way. I'm just kind of featuring the bike, putting it out there for people to kind of learn about it in that situation. I have had a couple of them bikes that were garbage, and I've told the companies they were garbage, and we ended up not doing videos on them. So, I mean, I don't hold back on telling a company if their products are garbage. But one of the nice things about buying my own stuff is I don't feel any pressure to be biased. And like this Bonafide kayak, you know, I paid for it, I just got it. So I get it out on the water. If there's something I don't like about it, then no corporate executive, nobody can say crap about it to me about it, because I paid for it, my own money. That Hobie Lynx I just got. Now granted, I bought it I bought the Bonafide new from Raccoon Creek Outfitters. I bought the Hobie Lynx used from a fella in Georgia. But either way, having paid my own cash money for both of those kayaks, no matter what I find that I like or dislike about them, it's completely, there's no bias whatsoever on my part. It just is what it is, whatever the opinion turns out to be. But with all that said, even though I don't think very highly of Old Town for how they've handled the seat situation, I do think very highly of them for the quality of the kayaks that they put out. Even with the Old Town Autopilot, I had problems with the motor, but the kayak hull itself was very well built. Now, one of the other things I'd said negatively about that kayak was the plastic gear tracks, and they were garbage. Garbage, man, they were very flimsy. But the hull, the plastic, the hull, the part that matters, it was very well built. Very thick plastic, just like this one. So I didn't have any structural concerns with that kayak. I don't have any structural concerns with this one. If I still have this kayak 5 years from now, I'm confident it will still be functional. Now the pedal drive, who knows? I mean, it's a 5-year warranty on it, so you figure 5 years and a day, you could expect to have problems. But with me not using this kayak as much as I use some of my other gear, I'm hoping that the pedal drive will maybe last a little longer. Every time I see something splash, I'm thinking, okay, I'm gonna bust a skipjack here, and then I stand up and make some casts, and I don't see anything splash anymore. We're gonna sit back down here in a minute. I ain't gonna sit here and just cast and cast and cast aimlessly. Let's make one more cast. I sure would like to have a skipjack right now, though. If any of y'all are looking for early Christmas presents for me and you can go back in time, bring me a skipjack right here today, I'd gladly take it. Now, I heard something over here behind me. I don't see him, though. I think it must just be just a very small school, just kind of sporadic. I ain't seen a big school skipjack in forever now. Just been a tough year, man. Really tough year. I was talking back there in the spring, what I oftentimes do with skipjack is they make their spawning run and they run way upriver. And that's when they're easiest to catch. You can catch them below the dams, because if you have a dam, they'll get stuck there as they make their way up. And if you don't have a dam, you'll still find them way upriver. And so you can find them easily, you can get on them easy. And then as the spawn ends, the skipjack will start moving back down. And they kind of move down in a predictable way. As they come back down river, you'll find them in the main channel, and they'll be staged up kind of out in front of major creeks. And so you can kind of follow them because they'll be in, let's say upriver, there'll be a major creek that comes in. They'll hang out there for a week or so. Some of the skipjack, I think, will stay there in that creek. The rest of the school, though, the giant school, will then make their way a little bit further downriver into the next creek. And you'll catch them there for a week or so, and then they'll just keep making their way down. And the school will get smaller as it comes back down river, because every one of these creeks they pass, some of those skipjack will stay there. That will be home until the next following year in the spring run. But once you start getting on them fish moving back down river, it kind of becomes a little bit predictable. Like you can kind of figure out where they're going to be and when. and you can kind of stay on them. But this year, I just never could. I got on them in the spring, but I never could get on them as they made their way down. I always felt like I was either ahead of them or behind them. I never could dial them in. And so it was kind of, and even if you did get on them one day, like I said, you get on them one day and they're gone the next. There was never a real consistent bite. And I don't know why that is. I don't have a good answer for that. I don't know if it's just an odd year, if maybe it's just, maybe there's just not as many skipjack this year. Maybe it was a bad spawning cycle. Certainly wouldn't have happened. I mean, could have had a bad spawning cycle this year, but we won't know that for a year or two. But I mean, a year or two past, maybe there's a bad spawning cycle, so maybe there's not as many out there now. We've certainly got a lot of bait dealers around here. I don't know if that's playing a role in it or not, but you get not only the local bait dealers, but bait dealers coming in from out of state and coming here and just taking them out cooler full after cooler full after cooler full. That's got to play a role at some point. I don't know. I don't know. It could just be I suck at fishing too. That could be part of it. I just suck at it. I do feel as if I don't suck quite as badly today after busting that big flathead though. That's where, when everything comes together, folks, when you set up how I've showed you here, how I've done, and you're in that right place at the right time, that's what's going to happen. You're going to get them big fish. And so I feel accomplished today, regardless of what happens the rest of the morning out here. We may not get another bite. I hope we do. This video will probably still post since I got that big flathead. Normally, if I'm filming 3 or 4 hours and I only get one bite, I'm not going to post that. But with it being a big flathead, that's different, folks. This video will probably go up because I'm proud of that flathead. That's just the difference in doing what I want to do versus doing what I should have done to ensure I get content today. Because, like I said, to ensure that I would get a video today, I'd have brought up my other kayak. I'd have went to, if I'd fished here, I'd have went to the back of this creek, dragged out, turned, went up the channel here, dragging the whole way, went in that next creek, turned, come out, kept going. And I'd have done that for 3 or 4 hours. And I have no doubts we would have caught more fish. We'd have more than 2 fish by now. I'm sure of it. I mean, I can't say that to be 100% certain. I mean, certainly look at my trip on tournament day to South Carolina there a couple weeks ago. I dragged baits for 8 hours, got 1 bite. So, you know, it don't always work out like that, but most of the time you're gonna get more action than that, covering that much water. And I think we would have caught more fish by now, but I wouldn't have caught the flathead. And I can say that with almost certainty because, I mean, I just never catch flathead. I caught 1 flathead dragging back in the summer. And yeah, I catch a flathead occasionally dragging. Occasionally, but it's the exception, not the rule. My friend Chris over there in South Carolina, well, he's from Ohio, but he was over there fishing the South Carolina tournament with us. He caught a 50-pound flathead dragging on his first pre-fishing day. So, I mean, you can catch flatheads dragging, but it's more of a surprise. It's more of getting lucky type thing than it is. You can't go out dragging baits expecting to catch flatheads. You just don't. You just don't get them that consistently. Now, when I come out and I'm suspend fishing like I am today, sitting up on a place like this, especially this time of year, I don't know if I'm going to get a flathead, but I know I can get a flathead. And so that's the difference in it. So again, I would rather, from a personal enjoyment perspective, do what we're doing today, have a chance at the big flathead, which we got, and it was so much more fun than what it would have been if we'd had 100 yards of line out, and just accept the fact that I'm probably going to catch less fish today than what I could have doing a different technique that I wouldn't have enjoyed as much. And I can't tell you how to fish. If you just want to catch as many fish as possible, well, doing what I'm doing here ain't it, man. And especially fishing with 2 rods. But if you're looking for big fish, or if you're looking for just the most fun experience in a kayak, this is it. So that's the difference in it. But now that we've got our big flathead, I feel much better about the decision. I really needed to get a video today, but I feel much better about it now. If we don't get any more fish, it's certainly not going to be a very good video from your all's perspective, but it's a good trip for me. I got that big fish before I left for Louisiana, so this would have been early October, a few weeks ago. I got that big blue here. I got several fish here that day, actually. But I'd set up on this spot in the same manner that we're doing now. Well, I was in my other kayak, so I was spot locked. I wasn't using a physical anchor, but I was spot locked. The same concept. Now, I got several fish. I got that monster blue. And then when I got back from Louisiana, I had tried this spot again and got completely skunked. But having experience here, I busted a bunch of big fish here last year too. I had a real productive 2-week period where fish were really in here. They were in here thick and I was getting some big fish. But having experience in a place like this, I know, and especially this time of year, I know fish are working in and out of here, and I know how they're moving. That comes with experience, right? Just setting up on spots and catching fish and learning kind of time periods, because some places you're going to catch fish more so certain times of year than others. And you learn that on your home body of water that you fish time and time again. But I know what we're doing is a correct place and a correct time of year. What I didn't know, and it's the $1 million question every time you leave your house to go fishing, is are the fish going to be active while you're there on the water? And so I can tell you right now, it doesn't appear to be a very active morning. I mean, with us only catching 2 fish, it doesn't seem like the bulk of the fish are real turned on and working through here. But I know we're in the right place to get them, and I know if we just logged enough hours here, we would totally. At some point, man, I'm telling you, if you set up on and it ain't just this place, there's nothing magical about this place. We could go to the next creek up. I've caught fish there. I've caught fish at that other little cove over there. I've caught them here. There's another point, and you can't really see hardly, but a creek that comes out over here behind us. There's a nice point that comes off. I've caught fish there. I've caught fish all up and down through here. Again, this is my home water, so I've caught a bunch of fish. I've done most of my fishing here on my home water, obviously. And so I've caught fish on all of them. There's nothing special necessarily about any one of these particular creeks. It's just a matter of where they're going to be and which one they're going to be moving into, whatnot, at the time. But I guarantee you, though, if we sat here for 24 straight hours with the lines in the whole time, with good bait, obviously, you're not going to come out here with a chicken liver and expect to catch a big flathead. Yes, you can catch a big, somebody's going to argue. My granddaddy in 1973 caught his biggest flathead of his life on a chicken liver and a pantyhose. Somebody will undoubtedly hit me in the comments with that, but consistently speaking, you're not going to necessarily catch trophy fish on hot dogs or chicken livers. You'll catch fish on them, but not necessarily trophy fish. But if you had a good quality bait and you set on a spot like any one of these creeks up down through here right now, this time of year, for a long period of time, and you were able to be on the water whatever hour of the day it was that the bulk of the fish turned on and moved up, you're going to nail them. You're going to nail them. It's just how many hours do you want to log? How many hours can you log? And for me, while I love fishing, I love catching fish like this, I just don't, I don't love it for long periods of time. I know that sounds ridiculous, but I just don't. I like shorter fishing sessions. 3, 4, 5 hours, plenty for me. Go out, have my fun, take it to the house. And that was the case really before even. Now, I used to fish longer when I was younger. I mean, I would pull longer days, but I mean, even back then I wasn't the type of person that was going to go out and camp on a spot or camp while I was fishing. I was going to go out and fish a few hours and go home. And certainly as I've gotten older and just can't physically sit in a kayak, it ain't just about being in the kayak. I can't sit for long periods of time regardless without just not feeling good. I got to get up and move. Now, if you're in a boat, especially if you're in one of them big Sea Arc boats with the couches or a big pontoon boat or something like that, you can get up and move around and walk around a little bit. So you can stretch your legs and do what you need to do. It's a little bit more comfortable. But even still, I just don't want to be on the water that long. I would rather take my chances and try to plan my trips around productive time periods. And over the course of the year, it's going to work out, man. I go through slumps. I always do. It happens. But also over the course of the year, I'm going to bust some big fish too. I'm going to be in the right place at the right time. I'm going to be in the right place damn near every trip. Am I going to be there at the right time is what it boils down to. If you can read a contour map, if you'll study the Buck Perry teachings and learn, again, Buck Perry, he's a bass fisherman, or was a bass fisherman. He's passed away now. But the fish use structure the same way. A fish is a fish is a fish. If you learn how to read a contour map and understand how fish are going to move, you're always going to be in the right position. It's just a matter of getting your timing right. So that's going to be people. I get people all the time saying they watch my videos and they learn something, or I've taught them a lot. The number one thing you can learn from me is that you don't need to be learning from me. That'd be the biggest piece of advice I give you. Learn to read a contour map. And I'm not the right person. There's shad flipping right there in front of us. I'm not the best person to teach you how to read a contour map. Now, Daniel and I, the owner of Catfish Gear, we made a master class a couple years back, kind of with the goal of taking somebody that had never catfished before and helping them get from no knowledge at all to being proficient at catfishing. And part of that masterclass course was map study and choosing spots. How do you pick spots to fit? How do you pick anchor spots? How do you pick spots to troll and drift through? How do you pick spots to drag through? We did part of that, but I wouldn't say that I'm the best person to be teaching that kind of thing. Because, I mean, Buck Perry's books went so much further in depth. And those books, they're honestly hard to read. You got to want to learn it. They read like a textbook. You got to want to put the time in to study it and learn it. But if you will, you're going to be able to pull up a map on any body of water and have a realistic chance of catching fish. And I've proven this to be true, man. I've went all over now with our tournament trail, specifically the last couple years, fishing bodies of water that I've never been to before. And I've caught fish on all of them. I've yet to show up somewhere and get skunked. Now I've had, well, let me rephrase that. I did have on one of my pre-fishing days on Santee Cooper, and I'd fished there twice prior to this year. I did get skunked on a pre-fishing day. I sure did. It happened. But what I mean is, if I got a map and I open it up and I'm going to a new body of water and I've got time to fish it. I'm not talking about go over there and fish a new body of water for 3 hours. I'm talking about if I got a couple days, 3 days, if I'm on a trip, if I'm on a vacation, if I'm pre-fishing, getting ready for a tournament, and I've got some real time to put into the place, I'm gonna find some fish. Now, as I proved on the Santee Cooper tournament, I may not find them on tournament day when it matters, but I'm gonna catch some fish because I know how to read that map. That travels, folks. Understanding fish movements and how to read a contour map, that travels. Body of water to body of water, state to state, lake to river, it travels well. And so that's the number one piece of advice that I could give anybody is, well, don't get advice from me. Get it from somebody like Buck Perry, who's, again, the godfather of structure fishing. Modern day structure fishing, all of the terms, everything that we say, it all came from him. The vocabulary, man, it came from him. And so, even as a bass fisherman, he done more for me catfishing than anything else. I mean, I was okay at catfishing prior to that. I caught fish. I caught big fish. But boy, when I started applying his teachings, I started catching more fish, and I started catching, the most important things, I started catching big fish more frequently. Because I used to just be, when I'd go catfishing, I'd be, I'm trying to think the best way to word it. I would be kind of generalized, I guess. Like, let's say I'm drifting the main river channel. I'd get out there and drift. I wasn't hugging the contours, I wasn't hugging the ledge, but I'd just drift and I'd catch fish. And sometimes I catch a big fish. But applying his teachings and really focusing on the break lines, well, then I started catching more fish and started catching big fish. And so you can have success without getting real technical and being real precise. You can have success. And some places you don't need to be precise. If you're up on these flats and fish are roaming around, or you're back in these creek channels and fish are back there chasing bait and roaming around, you don't have to be precise. But if you're fishing deeper structure, if you're fishing main channel ledges, points, humps, places like that, it's going to help your cause a lot to be more precise. And so that's where map study really comes into play. I mean, you know, and when I go to these different bodies of water for the tournaments, for instance, because usually, let's be real, if I'm traveling somewhere to catfish, I'm getting ready for a tournament. I'm not somebody I have catfish 10 minutes from my house. I'm not going to travel a long distance just for the hell of it to go catch catfish. If I'm going to travel somewhere, I'm going to go fish for something that I don't have access to here at home. So when I go to these tournaments, most of the time I'm going to cover water. I'm not fishing like I am today when I go to these places. And so some people have said, well, Justin, you're a hypocrite. You say you like doing this, and it's effective and whatnot, but you go to a tournament and we don't ever see you doing this. Well, in a tournament, I gotta catch fish during this time period. I have to go get fish. I can't, It's harder in a tournament. If I come out here today and I get skunked, it ain't the end of the world. Now, I don't need to get skunked today. I need to get some content. But you get my point in it. Like if I'm just fishing around home and I go out and I spend 3, 4, 5 hours and I get skunked, well, okay, we'll try it again the next time. But if you're traveling somewhere and you're on a vacation or you're on a trip getting ready for a tournament and you go out and you spend 3, 4, 5 hours and you get skunked, and you're just fishing that one spot, it's not the most efficient use of your time. Because, you know, on tournament day, you've got to catch, hopefully enough fish to win and big enough fish to win. And so if you're going somewhere brand new, especially if you've never been there before, you got to figure some things out. What type of structure do you need to fish? How deep do you need to fish? What kind of bait's going to work best? If you are drifting or trolling, how fast do you need to be going? Like, you got to figure these things out, and that's tough to do on a new body of water if you're just going to specifically anchor down on spots like we're doing today for long periods of time. So typically in those situations, I'm going to cover water. I'm going to troll, drift if I have current, or troll if I don't, and try to put together a bite. And if I can anchor fish, if I can figure out something, I'll certainly do it. But if you notice, most of the tournaments I say that, and hell, I'm thinking back on it right now. Thinking back on it right now. I guess in my mind it seems like I do that. On tournament day, I'm certainly trolling more oftentimes than not, but I'm thinking back on it right here, just this past tournament year, and I won 3 out of the 7 tournaments I fished, but 2 out of the 3, I won anchor fishing. The Hoover tournament, I had trolled most of the day. And I finally anchored down off a point with the wind was blowing up on it. I anchored down, I think it was, the tournament ended at 3. I think I anchored down around 1 or 1:30. And in that final hour and a half of the tournament's when I busted 2 big fish, and those ultimately won me the tournament. So I won the tournament anchor fishing, even though I didn't spend the day anchor fishing. And then the Louisiana tournament, I won it, and I anchored down all day long. And so I think all the other tournaments, Santee Cooper, I dragged all day. I finished next to last place at Santee Cooper, but I won money because I won the big fish prize. So I can't say it was my worst tournament. My worst tournament was, I guess, the Nickajack tournament. I finished 4th place, but I didn't win any money because I only paid top 3. So from a standings perspective, the Nickajack tournament was the worst. And I did anchor fish there, I spot locked. But from a financial perspective, the Nickajack tournament was worse. But from a standings perspective, the Santee Cooper was the worst. And Santee I dragged, and of course the Nickajack tournament was, I just got to throw that out. Because the Nickajack tournament, I lost half my day because it was storming. And then I fell down the boat ramp. I just had a bad day. That's all I can say. Both the tournaments I really done poorly at, the Nickajack and the Santee Cooper, I had bad days. I had all them problems there at Nickajack. Of course, falling down the ramp. I turned my bait bucket over trying to get back in the kayak. Lost part of my bait. Lost half my day to the storm. That was a bad day. And the Santee Cooper, I had problems. I haven't even tried to fix my live scope yet. I keep putting that off. I haven't even tried it yet. I don't know what's wrong with it. It wouldn't turn on tournament days. So I had no graph. And I get out where I was going to go, where I was going to start fishing, and there was jugs everywhere. And so that put me in a foul mood right off the bat. And so I had a bad day mentally, I guess. And so those were the 2 worst tournaments of the year for me. All the other tournaments, I cashed in. I either got first or second place. I fished 7 tournaments. I cashed in 6 out of the 7. And I won 3 of them. So it was a good year for me tournament-wise. But most of the time when I go somewhere new like that, I'm going to move around. I'm going to troll. I'm going to cover water. You're not going to see me doing this per se most of the time. Although I would prefer to do this all of the time. Really, the Louisiana tournament was the only tournament. And I was fishing in this kayak, and I said, you know what, I'm going out. I'm going to anchor down on a spot. I'm throwing out 2 rods, and I'm doing it all day long, and whatever happens, happens. If I took that mindset into the tournament scene more often, I would probably do better, honestly. But it comes back to confidence thing. When I'm out here, when I'm fishing at home like this, I have confidence because I know I have history, I have experience. I know this time of year, at a place like this, I've got potential to bust a big fish like we've already done here today with the big flathead. You go somewhere new, you don't have that experience to rely on. And so it's hard to put your eggs in one basket like that. Now, the Louisiana tournament, there was something else splashing right there in front of us. By gosh, there's another thing, they're busting right there. That fish come up twice. Either one fish or multiple fish, something's hitting right there. You watch and see, we'll make 10 casts over here, we won't get touched. Just been a tease every time. But yeah, Louisiana tournament, that was the one event where I went there on tournament day and I was like, I'm anchoring down and I'm not moving. But on my pre-fishing days, the spot I ultimately fished, I had caught fish there and I had marked a bunch of fish there. I had seen them on the graph, so I knew there was a good chance that if I just put the time into it, that fish were gonna move up in there because I'd already seen them there and I'd already caught fish there. So there was that at least. And to the Mississippi River there on Louisiana, that like you had current flow. So you had scent dispersion. And that'll help draw fish in. If you're in a lake or a reservoir and you don't have current and you're dropping your baits down on one spot, if you're wrong, you're wrong. Fish aren't going to know your baits are even there. So, I don't know. It's one of them things. I think about it in my mind oftentimes. I've talked to you all about this before, but like, if I approached the tournament scene, let's say the whole tournament trail next year, which I don't know, I'm back and forth on this. I don't know if I'm going to fish the next year tournament scene. It's changing. I've talked about this a little bit. Next year they're going to have 10 tournaments, 5 east of the Mississippi, 5 west of the Mississippi. And you're going to have to fish at least one tournament on each side. You're going to have to fish 5 tournaments minimum and 1 on each side of the Mississippi River to qualify for Angler of the Year. So I don't know that I want to travel west of the Mississippi to go catfishing because it's a long drive to go catfish. And the same amount of time that I can drive to Oklahoma, I can drive to the beach. And I promise you I'd rather go to the beach than Oklahoma. No offense to any of you people from Oklahoma watching. I know I've got some Oklahoma viewers. I'm sure you got a fine state, but again, if I can go, oh, they're busting right there. They're busting right there in front of us. You come up and see if I can cast. I got over there close. Dadgummit, man. Coming up just sporadically like that. It's not many fish. When it's coming up like that, it's like 1 or 2 fish that's coming up. They're not in a giant school. They're just probably in a little pack of 5, 6, 8 fish. I do think that was busting right there. I'm pretty sure that was a skipjack though. The last one we saw come up. Dadgummit. Yeah, anyway, so the next year's tournament trail, I don't know how seriously I'm going to fish it because I'm probably not going to be eligible to compete for Angler of the Year. Because even if I do make, say, one trip west of the Mississippi, it's going to be real difficult to compete for Angler of the Year against the guys who are going to fish all 10 events, both east and west of the Mississippi. You know, Ryan, he won Angler of the Year this past year. He's going to go to all of them. Adam out there, he's from Kansas. He's going to go to all of them. And so they're going to have 10 chances to get their best score versus me, I'm going to have 5, maybe 6. And that's and the thing is, if I don't compete for Angler of the Year, then at the most I would have 5 tournaments to fish here east of the Mississippi. And depending on where those are at, I may not go to all of those. You know, this past year, we went to Owensboro, Kentucky, up there on the Ohio River. And they had the tournament there because the city of Owensboro had paid King Cat a bunch of money to host their event there. They were doing like a tournament and an expo and all that. And so the city, or the Chamber of Commerce, Board of Tourism, whatever organization they have there, had paid King Cat a nice chunk of money to have their event there. And they had their boat tournament, and then we had, because we're the kayak division of the King Cat Boat Trail this year, and so we were up there. And look, I get it from a business decision of why they did it, man. The places, if that city's gonna give you a big chunk of money and gonna help you advertise a huge payout, well, I mean, I get it. But from a fishing perspective, man, it was awful. I caught 3 fish all day and finished, and I caught 3, I don't even want to say I caught 3 fish. I don't want to say it like that. I caught 3 small fish all day. And I finished second place and cashed a check. It was awful. I don't want to ever go back there again, honestly. I don't want to drive that far to go catch 3 small fish. It was terrible. Adam won it, and his fish were small too. It was awful. It was awful fishing. Which is why that city is paying tournament organizations to come have their events there, because otherwise who the hell's going to show up to come there and fish and book their hotels and eat at the restaurants and all that? So I get it. But if we have places like that on the tournament schedule next year, and I decide that I'm not going to really do all the traveling out west, which I really don't want to, then if I end up missing 1 or 2 tournaments on the 1 or 2 out of the 5, let's say, that are east of the Mississippi, well, how many tournaments am I actually going to fish? Probably not very many. So I don't know about next year's tournament scene. I don't know how that's going to work out. Oh, got one. We got one. Right there. Yes. Yes, buddy. Yes. Yes. Let's leave him flopping because he may have a friend. Let's keep throwing out here. We're gonna refresh our baits here in just a second, folks. We're gonna cut him up. Part of me wants to put him on live, but I think we're gonna cut him up. We're gonna replace our head bait. We're gonna replace our chunk, get a better section of the chunk. That's what we're gonna do. Yes, I told you those were skipjack out there. I told you so. You didn't believe me because you didn't see them jumping out there, but I told you it was skipjack out here in the middle of the damn channel. Just sporadic, small schools of them. That makes me much happier, folks. Got us a super fresh skipjack. I would like to drop him down live, but we'll make better use of him if we cut him up. We've had that head bait down there a long time now. I would like to switch it out. I'd like to put on a fresh chunk, and so that's what we're gonna do. Make a few more casts though. I don't see anything, I ain't seen them come up anymore. You get these little small clusters, small groups, small schools, whatever you want to call them, of skipjack, where they're just a handful of fish in the school, man. They're on the move constantly. And so it's hard to, unless you just see them come up, it's hard to know where to cast. That's why I like trolling so much, because then when you're trolling, you've constantly got lines in the water, and you got 2 lines in the water at that. And so you're more likely to run into them that way. If me and you, if we took off trolling right now and running these 2 lines up and down through here where we've seen them fish kind of bust sporadically, we could probably get us a few. But I don't want to spend time doing that right now. I'd rather do that when I'm done fishing today, when I'm done catfishing, and headed back to the car. I'd rather try to get them then. And if we can, then we'll have them for tomorrow. And if we can't, well, then we're gonna go carp fishing tomorrow. Yeah, let's make 2 more casts, and then let's cut up the skipjack. He's not a real big skipjack. We'll probably get 3 baits out of him. But here's the thing. With him being a smaller skipjack, the other one, my other head bait on there is a pretty big head bait. Having this smaller head bait may be better. I saw something else busting out. Oh, they're out there. They're out there right in front of us. I'm gonna keep making a few more casts here, folks. I see them. They're just out of my casting range. Hopefully they're gonna swim this way. I was about to say though, that smaller head, since both of our fish have come on the chunks, so there's been the smaller baits, maybe the smaller head will get us some more action. They come up again out there a minute ago, just right outside of my casting range, but they're still in the area. They're still clearly here. Just doesn't seem to be very many of them. And we've seen some threadfin flip out here occasionally. They're kind of just right below the surface out here over this deeper water. I think they're probably just relating to the point that comes out, and they're just out from it. into this creek mouth kind of. All right, I don't see him anymore. Let's make a couple more casts here again, and we're gonna cut this dang thing up for real this time. Replace the head, replace the chunk. I'm not a big fan of casting, but if they're there, it can be a lot of fun. When you're just making 100 casts and nothing's happening, let's make one more. It gets old pretty quick, at least it does for me. By gosh, hey, we got us one, didn't we? We sat here and we got us one, so that's one more than we had. That's a 100% increase, folks. That's for you mathematicians out there. All right, Skippy. Thank you in advance for what you're about to do for us. Okay. Good and fresh, folks. It don't get any fresher than just being caught minutes ago. Yeah, we'll get one, maybe two baits out of the second half of that thing. I mean, they'll be small baits, but we can do it. May not be with this cold front, it may not be the worst thing in the world to have a smaller bait on anyway. This head bait, how long have we been fishing now? Over 2 hours. This head bait's not been touched. Look how good a condition it's in. Now it's bled out obviously, but I mean you can still see there's a lot of blood down in there. And I squeeze it and it's still got some. So we're gonna keep this head bait. I'm gonna throw it back in the cooler in case we need it. But this one here that's clearly fresher, I mean obviously it's got a lot more blood and oils coming off of it. But when you've got a head bait down, or any bait for that matter, any piece of cut bait, and you don't have small fish biting it and pecking it, and you don't have a lot of current flow to wash it out, yeah, it'll stay in pretty good condition. Like you can have a reasonable chance of catching a fish on it for several hours. I mean, I've had baits on days where I'm short on bait. I've left them down for hours and hours and still caught fish. I've had situations where I've gotten baits back that have caught other fish and you catch more with it. So, I mean, it's doable. But if we got an option here to replace it with a better option, then let's do it. Okay. There's that piece. Drop it down. We'll throw these pieces that are left in the cooler, and I guess I'll make some more casts. Get my cooler open. Yeah, we'll save that head. I mean, it's clearly washed out some, but I mean, there's still some life in it. And if we have to, we have to. Desperate times, desperate measures, folks. Clean your cutting board off here. I know you ain't gonna clean it for me. Okay. Yeah, that's exciting, folks. Got us another skipjack, man. I'm gonna stand back up, make some more casts, I reckon. Might as well just keep making a few. You know, I ain't seen any more come up and bust. But yeah, to circle back to the tournament topic there, I don't know next year how many I'm going to end up fishing. If we only have 5 that are a reasonable drive, and 1 or 2 of them are in places that I just don't want to go, unless there's I mean, Lord, if one of these towns offers up enough money, I guess it's worthwhile to go try to hit the lottery if you are able to catch some fish there. But from a fun perspective, I have no desire, no offense to the people that live in Owensboro, but I really don't have a great desire to ever go back and fish that area of the Ohio River again. Just wasn't my cup of tea. But I think where I was trying to go with all that is part of me does wonder, like, and I've touched on this some in some other videos too, so some of y'all done hearing a rerun here. But like, what if for an entire, not one event, but for an entire season, I just went on tournament day, picked out what I thought was be the best place from looking at a map, and you go anchor down on that spot for 8 hours. Hell with the pre-fishing. Not gonna run all over creation. Just show up on game day, on tournament day, put 8 hours into what I would pull up on a map and think, okay, this is my best shot. Wonder how I would do. I mean, it's just one of them things you think about. Like, I wonder how I would do in that. Two rods, I ain't even talking about taking a fancy kayak or nothing. I'm talking about basic set like I did in Louisiana. Take this kayak, a dumbbell for an anchor, 2 rods. It would certainly make it easy. Well, I mean, not necessarily every place, but if I could take my bait, catch my bait at home, and take it to the tournament, it'd be a lot easier. Because that's the biggest challenge when you travel somewhere, whether it's a tournament or vacation or wherever, you gotta catch bait. And I spend a lot of my time that could be used pre-fishing, just trying to catch bait. Hell, down there in Louisiana, I spent half my trip trying to catch mullet. But, you know, if you could just show up, if you could catch your bait at home, show up on tournament day, fish, you'd have fresh bait, you'd have a solid game plan going in. You know, you wouldn't be out there, like if you make a decision, a Louisiana tournament, prime example, right? Like when I went out that day, I said, I'm anchoring on a spot and I'm putting in all 8 hours. Now I had a couple spots picked out in case somebody was sitting on one of them. When I went out there, I'd just go to the next one. But like, that's what I was going to do. There wasn't going to be any second guessing myself. There wasn't going to be any running all over creation, changing techniques, changing tactics. No. I was going out there to anchor on one of those 2 spots, and I was sitting there all damn day, and that's the way it was going to be. So you take out the mental part of it. Once you've made your decision, like, this is what I'm doing. This is how it's going to be today. And so if you applied that, you catch your bait at home, as long as you could take your bait to that body of water. Like some places, for instance, like we went to Santee Cooper there a couple weeks ago. The primary bait over there is white perch. Well, I don't have those here. And skipjack's not a legal bait there, so it's not like I could have loaded up here and take skipjack over. Can't do that. So places like that might be a little difficult, but if it's anywhere on the Tennessee River, or if it's a body of water that, like Hoover up in Ohio, for instance, white bass is a good bait there. I can catch them. I don't necessarily have to catch white bass in there. I could catch them here to take up there. But if it's a body of water that either has the bait in that body of water that I have here, or the baits that I do have here that I could take are legal baits there, then I could show up on tournament day with fresh bait, pick you out a spot on the map, and just go wing it, man. I wonder how I would do. Like, I think about that. Like, how would I do? I don't know that I would necessarily be competing for Angler of the Year if I didn't. I think doing like I did this year, like putting in some time and effort pre-fishing and trying to get a solid game plan for tournament day probably helps me more than I give it credit for mentally. But next year though, I mean, if I don't end up being eligible for the Angler of the Year points race, I don't know how this new format that they're doing is going to work out. I mean, it sounds great in theory, right? Like you have to compete in both geographic regions. So the hope is that you would have like a true national champion, somebody that has performed well all over the country. It sounds good in theory, but how many people are going to travel? I mean, we don't have a lot of people traveling for these tournaments anyway. I mean, most of these tournaments, the Sandusky Bay tournament is a big draw. You'll get 30 people for that. But the other events, you're getting 15 people or less. Louisiana, I think we had 7. The Wheeler tournament, which I didn't go to, but the weather was bad, that kept a lot of people away. I think they had 7 or 8. So it ain't exactly, Santee Cooper, we had 10. It ain't exactly big numbers of people going to these things. And so if you're forcing people to fish, travel long distances to fish, you know, for us on the east side having to go west of the Mississippi, and for those people over there having to come east of the Mississippi, how many people are really going to be eligible to compete for Angler of the Year? Less than 5 probably. And then, so if you've got that few people, how much money can you put into the pot for it to make it worthwhile? So I don't know that it's going to really work out. It's really, I guess, going to come down to how many people in the Midwest are going to compete in the tournaments. How many of them are going to show up? That we don't know. You have people asking for it, like they want the tournaments out there, but will they show up? We heard that too from the Carolina guys. God, the Carolina guys run their mouth so much back when the tournament scene was getting started. And then we had the tournament at Kerr Lake last year. Well, I think you had like 2 or 3 people from the Carolinas actually show up and fish it. And then the Santee Cooper tournament this year, we had 2 from the Carolinas show up and fish it. So it's like, you know, they clamor for it. Oh, you know, you should have it here, and then you have it, and then they don't show up. I'm wondering how much of that will be the case next year in the Midwest with the people from Kansas, Nebraska, Oklahoma, those states. So I don't know. I don't know how it's going to turn out. I just always, man, on my drive home from wherever I'm at, I just always have that thought in my head, like, if I didn't do what I do, if I just tried to go in and fish in these places like I fish, if I was fishing here at home, pick out a spot, go anchor down, put 8 hours into it, how would it work out? How would it shake out? I mean, this year for sure, I would have won 2 tournaments doing it, for sure. Because Louisiana, I did do that and I won. And then the Hoover tournament, even though I only spent the last hour and a half anchor fishing, if I had went out there with the idea that I was going to anchor fish all day, the spot I ended up on would have been where I went all day. So, I mean, I would have still got them bites. I may not have got bit before 1:30, 2 o'clock, whenever it was that them fish bit, but I would have at least still got them fish because I would have been in that place anchor fishing at the time. So there's that. The first tournament of the year, I won it on, oh, right there, we got another one. We got another one. That's a big one too. That's a big one. Land you skipjack here, folks. Land you skipjack, we got him. Okay. You know what, we'll just go ahead and throw him in the cooler. We just rebaited these other rods, so we'll just throw him back there on ice. If I can get hold of him. There we go. Nice, folks. They're sporadic, but they're here. Nice. Stand back up here and we'll make some more casts. All right, man. Old Skippy, folks. Old Skippy Jack. There's one for the cooler, so we know for sure now we've got enough bait for today. Unless the fish really turn on, which so far, it sure don't look like we're going to have much luck this morning as far as numbers goes. I still feel lucky for catching that big flathead, but right now it don't seem like we're in a particularly active time period. But it could happen anytime. But no, again, the 2 tournaments that I won anchor fishing, so I don't think that would have changed on those 2. The one tournament that I won that I don't think I would have had I been anchor fishing was the first tournament of the year on Wilson and Pickwick. I ended up fishing on Pickwick, and I had tried anchor fishing while I was out there pre-fishing and didn't do worth the flip, man. And so I think I would have needed to do what I done, which was drag, working ledges. I think I needed to do that in order to win. So that one might have changed the outcome, but who knows with the other tournaments that I didn't win. Who knows, had I been anchor fishing in those the whole time, maybe that situation's different. Maybe I improved my score in one of those. Or maybe I don't, maybe I win the 2 that I would have won and not cash in any of the others too. Who knows? You can play that game all day long, woulda, coulda, shoulda. No way of ever knowing. But that's what I think about on my drive home from these tournaments. I sit there and If I have a good tournament, I think about it. If I have a bad tournament, I'm like, every time I have a bad tournament, I'm always like, what the hell do I need all these gadgets and stuff on my kayaks for? I'm like, I could have done just as poorly without all the stuff. The new kayak ain't gonna have live scope on it. I mean, I'm gonna have the live scope still, assuming I can get it working again, which I need to get out there and look at it. I just keep putting it off. Don't even want to fool with it. I'm hoping it's just maybe a wire pulled loose. Something simple. I'm hoping it's not like my actual units tore up. I guess I should look at that before the Black Friday sales come out, because I may need to buy a new unit. And we're getting around here now, it's almost time for Black Friday. Speaking of that, for those of you needing some fishing gear, with the Black Friday sale coming up, I'm filming, what did we say today was, the 15th? I looked at my phone earlier, I think it's 15th. You're probably seeing this video next week, which would be 20-something. Black Friday sale's coming up, folks. Catfish Sumo. It's one of the best sales of the year. Usually Black Friday and the Catfish Conference, those are usually the two biggest sales of the year. That's your biggest savings. So if you're looking to buy some stuff, whether it's just restocking your terminal tackle, hooks, sinkers, stuff like that, best time to get it. If you're wanting to maybe make a rod purchase, like my Signature Series Golly Whopper rods, great time to do it, because they're all going to be on sale. Usually everything on the Catfish Sumo website is on sale. So I definitely check it out there, see if there's anything you need. Hell, you might need to get you a Kayak Catfish hat too. That's a hell of a stocking stuffer for the man in your life, or the woman. I ain't trying to sit here and sell you stuff, but at the same time, if you're gonna buy it anyway, you might as well buy it at a discount. Who don't like getting stuff on sale? I do. I do need to take a look at my graph though when I get, may do that this afternoon maybe, and see if I can figure out why. I was trying to, it worked on my pre-fishing days in South Carolina, and then I get out there on tournament day and it won't turn on. And of course it was dark. I'd got out there before dawn to make my run where I was going, and so I couldn't see nothing. It was dark, and I was in the kayak, so I was having to lean over my graph and hold myself up, my butt up in the air. So I mean, I'm just there, I'm jiggling wires, I'm unplugging my wires from my battery and back and forth, and I couldn't get it to turn on. I'm hoping it's just something, maybe a wire come loose, something simple. Hoping it ain't the whole damn unit that's messed up. But if it is, I guarantee you there'll be some sale on Black Friday. That's all. If you need a graph, Black Friday's always the best time to get. Black Friday and Father's Day is when the Bass Pros and Cabela's of the world, that's when they offer the best deals on your fish finders. But I really like this. This is a Raymarine Dragonfly 5 that I got on this kayak, and they don't even make them anymore. That's old. I got that from Eric Romines, Promines we call him. He had won it in a raffle, and I bought it off of him. I'm pretty sure I gave him $200 for it. Memory serves me, but I got that in, it was 2017 or 18. So, I mean, I've had it a long time. It's been a good kayak, I mean, a good graph for what I need it for. Map card, depth and speed. That's all you really need. If you're going to fish like I am today, just suspending baits on deep structure, that basic graph with the map card's all you need. And you know, you can't buy this particular model anymore. They don't make it anymore, but you can find something comparable to it. I guarantee you when the sales ad comes out for Bass Pro or Cabela's there for Black Friday, there'll be something, either a Lowrance, a Humminbird, a Garmin, there'll be something comparable to that for $200. Guarantee it. They always, every year there is. And you know, this is, again, this is a Raymarine that I've got on here, but it really, the brands, it really don't matter. If you buy a 5-inch 2D sonar unit, whether it's Humminbird, Lowrance, Garmin, Raymarine, they're all comparable. You're going to get comparable readings, comparable quality. Like it's, don't worry about the brand, folks. Get the best deal. Get one that's got that chip, the Navionics chip or Lake Master, whatever. You want one that's got a map card in it. Beyond that, that's all you really need. But 5-inch screen, 7-inch screen, whatever size you want. Personally, I prefer the smaller screen because I'm not using it to look for fish. I mean, again, I'm confirming my depth with the map card. So that 5-inch screen's plenty for me. A 7-inch screen or a 9-inch screen, it just takes up more space on the kayak. It uses more battery. And so that smaller screen, if I can just do like I've done today, use it to get set up on a spot, man, I don't charge my battery once a month. You know, like I don't have to fool with batteries very much because it just don't draw much power. It don't require much energy. Now you get something like my live scope, for instance. You got to power your battery, you got to power your live scope screen, and you got to power the processor, the black box they call it. Well then, in that situation, you're going to go through some battery, man. My live scope, because most of my trips, again, 3, 4, 5 hours. I charge it about every other trip. I don't know, if I fish a tournament day, I'm out there, I got it on for 8 hours, then I'm gonna have to charge it when I get back that day. So it's you know, a little bit more of a hassle. Some of you will argue it's not a hassle at all to plug in batteries when you get home, and I guess it's not, but it's just one of the things I just don't want to do. It's just that simple, folks. I just don't want to do it. That's all I can say about it. I just don't want to do it. Maybe it's part of me subconsciously rebelling against what the kayak industry has turned into. I was telling Kayak Mike, our tournament director, about this. He was up there when I picked up my Bonafide. I was telling him, like, man, it's sad what kayak fishing's turned into. I mean, and I'm not a kayak purist at all, like I'm not. I've got no issues with people running motors, running pedals, putting fancy electronics in the kayak. Like I got no problem with it. I'm not a purist from that aspect. But I do hate that the kayaks today the industry's kind of going more toward turning them into plastic John boats. Because that's what you got with the Bonafide XTR 130 that I just got. It's a small plastic John boat, is what it is. It's not even a kayak anymore, folks. If you can't paddle it, it ain't really a kayak. And you might say, well, Justin, hell, you're in that Hobie Pro Angler. You don't want to paddle it either. And you're right, I don't. And I don't really view it much as a kayak either. It's too damn big too. This right here is about as big as I want for something that's a quote-unquote kayak. And yes, I pedal this, but I can paddle it, and I have paddled it before. This kayak paddles really well. You don't have to use a lot of energy to paddle this kayak, and it does well paddling. The paddle version of this kayak is the same hull design, just without the pedals, obviously. There are no paddle versions of the Hobie Pro Angler. The Bonafide XTR is technically a kayak that you can paddle, but ain't nobody paddling that thing. Everybody's gonna have a motor on it. And there's no way to hook pedals to it, so you've either got to paddle it or motor it, and everybody's gonna be motoring it. But it's just, and look, the industry goes where the money is, and that's what people want. That's what people want. They want miniature plastic boats. That's what the public has said they want. That's where they're spending their money. And so that's what companies are going to make. As somebody who enjoys kayak fishing, who enjoys the feel of catching a big fish in a kayak, I just hate to see it, man. I'm the old man yelling at the clouds, I guess. I'm that guy. Thankfully, there's still kayaks on the market that do suit my needs and my wants, like this one. The Hobie Lynx is kind of it's, I guess, technically a kayak, but it's more of a stand-up paddle board with a seat and pedals, and it's a ton of fun. I think I'm gonna have a good time in Florida with it. And so there's still options out there for me. It's just these kayak companies, when they're spending their money on research and development, it's going toward how can we make our kayaks bigger, not how can we improve our existing models that were actually kayaks. I'll tell you what I'm gonna do right now though. I'm gonna make about 3 more casts, and then I'm gonna set my butt back down until we see some more fish come up. Because I ain't seeing nothing, and we're not getting bit. And with the way the catfish bite has been so slow thus far, I'm between the skipjack we just put on a little while ago and the fact we got that other one, we're good on bait right now. And so I'm gonna sit back down and relax, and then when I leave, I'll troll down this creek and back out and come back out this area and maybe circle around 2 or 3 laps out here before I call it quits today and see if we can't get some more. But I probably got a better chance catching them on the troll than I do just standing here just casting at random. So we'll call this the last cast unless I bust one right here. Until we see them again. All right. Well, you know what? It worked out though. We ended up getting 2 more skipjack that we wouldn't have had by doing that. I want to kick back, relax here a little bit though. Put my feet up. Put my feet up, set a spell, as they say. Yeah, slow day out here. Slow day for the catfish thus far, but we busted our big flathead. Got that blue. That blue, I didn't really notice on the flathead, but the blue, he had mud all up his sides, all up to his back. So he's been down there buried in that mud. They get down there and they waller it out, and they'll bury themselves in that mud. And I wonder maybe with the cold front that come through, the barometric change, any fish that maybe been up there feeding, working shallower the last few days, like if they didn't notice the change coming and come back out here and bury themselves. I wonder if that didn't happen. Like I mentioned there, those atmospheric changes, that's going to happen in the upper part of the water column. That's where fish are going to feel it. The deeper water, they're just not going to notice it out there. It's going to be more stable for them. But those fish that have been moving up shallower to feed, they would possibly be affected. Either way, no matter what the cause, we've not had a super active morning for numbers. One flathead, one blue. But the flathead, though, folks, that was a day maker for me. Anytime I get a big flathead like that, I'm going home happy, man. I just don't, this year, I guess because I just haven't suspend fished as much, I'm just not getting as many flatheads this year. So I'm much more appreciative of them when I haven't been getting them. As some dogs are going crazy. We got dogs going crazy over here, and I hear a leaf blower off in the background. So much for peace and quiet out here. I hear fish splashing somewhere behind me. I don't see them though. There's some skipjack around right here. They're just sporadic. It's small schools of them sporadically. We do some trolling out here. We'll get us some. I may still end up going carp fishing tomorrow. But we'll see. If I can get... If I left out of here today with 3 or 4 skipjack, plus the bluegill that we still got, we'll go catfishing tomorrow. If I don't get any more skipjack, probably go carp fishing tomorrow. I think that's going to be my plan. Tomorrow's at least supposed to be a little warmer, I think. I don't know about tomorrow morning, but it's supposed to warm up a little more tomorrow afternoon. It wouldn't be so bad out here right now if it wasn't for the wind. The wind's cold. That's what's getting me right now. When we first get in this time of year, I say this every year, but when you're in the fall, oh, I see some more skipjack busted, but they're way over yonder. They're over there in the middle, but they're way out there. I got a feeling we're going to get some skipjack in this creek when we leave today. But every year, when it first starts to get cold in the fall, and we had a little cold snap in October, like when I got back from Louisiana, it was cold here. And it lasted a few days, and then it warmed back up. But when it first starts getting cold, it's like a shock to the system. It just feels colder than it is. And it takes a little while to get used to it. And so I'm still at that point right now. I ain't used to it, folks. And so when it's 40-something degrees and cloudy and the wind's blowing, it feels cold. If the sun was out shining on us, it may not be as bad. I gotta fix this. I gotta fix this rod. That wind is blowing that swivel and it's beating on the rod. It's gonna drive me nuts. There we go. Solving problems, it's what I do, folks. Yeah, it could definitely be 20 degrees warmer right now and I wouldn't complain. If I do catfish tomorrow, I don't know where I want to go. This is, I would probably fish around the same time period tomorrow because the Tennessee-Georgia game is tomorrow night, so I got to be home for that. That's a big game. And I don't know better than we've done as far as numbers goes. I probably wouldn't want to fish even this area again. I may go down river tomorrow potentially. See what's going on down there. Guess it'll be game time decision when I wake up. I will be staying up later. Tonight's the Mike Tyson Jake Paul fight. I hope it lives up to the hype. Clearly, by the time you're seeing this, it's already been over with. But I'm pulling for Mike Tyson because, as somebody who's aging a little bit, it gives me a little hope that somebody can succeed at that level as an older person. And he's in incredible shape. So I'm pulling for him. My thought is that it will probably be an easy fight for Jake Paul because I think Tyson, even though he's in incredible shape, I think he'll probably get gassed early. I don't know what kind of stamina he's going to have once you get a few rounds in. That's my thought. But what I hope doesn't happen with this fight, I hope it's not just two guys with the publicity stunt getting a money grab, that they're just going to go out there and just spar a little bit. Like, I want them to actually box, man. I want to see them, both guys trying to win. That's what I hope for. Regardless of the outcome, I'm obviously pulling for Tyson, but more so, I'm wanting it to be a good fight, that they're both going to go out and try to win, not just go out there and mess around for 8 rounds, 10 rounds, however the hell long it is, and cash big checks. That's what I fear is going to happen. But I'm going to watch it tonight. Girlfriend's coming over. We're going to grill some steaks and we're going to watch it. But it's going to be a late night for me, so I'm not going to be out at dawn tomorrow anyway, just because it's going to be too cold at dawn. But I'll probably fish later in the morning to midday. And it really depends. I mean, it just depends. If we get bait, I'll go catfishing. If not, then I'm going to go carp fishing. I'd like to get another trip in before Florida for carp. I'd like to. Because I don't know when I get back. I don't know when I get, well, I don't know exactly when I'm getting that damn trailer. It's done, it's ready, it's got to be shipped to me. And then I'm going to be gone for Florida, and so I don't know how soon after I get back I'm going to be able to get this trailer. But as soon as I do, I'd like to get on the water with that bona fide kayak, which means I'm going to have to disassemble my Hobie kayak with the power poles and all that. And so I may not, if I don't get another carp trip in before I go to Florida, I may not get another one in until spring. And I've been on a good bite. I've been getting some carp. I've been getting a bunch of buffalo. And I kind of want to go out there and see if I can do it again, get another good trip or two in potentially. And so I definitely want to try to get at least one trip in before Florida. And right now, I'm filming this on Friday. Right now, I'm looking at leaving for Florida on probably Wednesday, unless the weather's just not looking good down there. I think I'm going to leave here Wednesday morning. Of course, by the time you're seeing this, I'm already in Florida. But I'm looking to leave Wednesday morning. I'm probably going to drive part of the way. I like to break my drive up because it's such a long drive. But I'm probably going to drive like maybe 8 hours or so on Wednesday, spend the night, and then drive the rest of the way on Thursday. And I'd like to start fishing Thursday afternoon. My plan is I'd like to hit, if all things go well with the weather, I'd like to hit Lake Ida there in West Palm. I'd like to hit it Thursday afternoon. I'd like to try to do some saltwater fishing in one of the inlets there on Friday. I'd like to go back to Lake Ida, fish the canals there on Saturday morning. And then I've got to pick up my girlfriend at the airport. She's flying down on Saturday. I'm gonna pick her up, and then we're driving down to the Keys, and we can check in anytime after 4 o'clock on Saturday afternoon. And then I'll be down the Keys until the following Saturday. And then once I drive back home, I've got to take her back to the airport on Saturday. And so, and that, unfortunately, that extends my drive because I have to go out of my way to take her back to the airport. But depending on weather, I may stick around in Florida and fish another day, or I may just start coming on home. I heard something, more skipjack splashing somewhere. As soon as I turn around, they're gone. They are just sporadically popping up. Oh, I see it right there. Right there. Oh God, right there they are. Let's make some more casts right here real quick. Get my lines undone. Oh crap, okay, there we go. Just outside of my casting distance on this side now. Hopefully they'll swim this way though. They were just outside of where I can. Of course, now the wind's going to get me spun back. It'll be hard to cast over there. This bass boat going by, he's going to be like, what the hell's this guy in a kayak doing? Casting out in the middle of the river. But he ain't going to catch nothing out there. Guarantee you that's what he's thinking. I tell you what though, folks, that wind is cold. I mean, it is just, it's cold. I feel like it's picking up a little bit. It's definitely started to change directions because we were facing upriver and now we're kind of facing coming out of this creek. It's kind of changing directions a little bit. I should have wore my bibs. If I wear my bibs, I'm fine right now. I've just got these thin pants on. I don't like wearing jeans when I'm pedaling because it just ain't comfortable. I like wearing either these pants to pedal because they're thinner. I don't know what they're called. They're like fishing pants from Columbia. They're comfortable, but they're thin. I like these, or my bibs, if it's cold, I'll put on like fleece pants, like pajama pants, fleece, and they're warm. But I don't like when you're pedaling, you're obviously moving, you're expending energy. And if you dress too warmly when you pedal, you'll get hot and you'll start sweating. And then when you get where you're going and you stop pedaling, you're going to get cold because you're going to be sitting in sweat. You're going to be all damp. So I like to try to be as, in the summertime it don't matter. But in the wintertime, you got to kind of do layers. And I don't want to put on too much clothes, but at the same time, I don't want to be cold like I am out here right now. Oh, something hit our catfish rod. Something gave that body chunk a little tug. One more cast here and I'm gonna plop my butt back down. I feel like I'm colder standing up because that wind's blowing into my butt and my legs. It only blows into my back while I'm sitting down. I ain't gonna fish much longer anyway. I'm cold. I'm getting hungry too. Even though we only reeled in 2 fish, well, minus the skipjack, I have worked up an appetite today. Swing by and get me some lunch on the way home. May go over to Donna's and get a burger today. It's Friday, so it's catfish day over there, and I don't want no catfish, but I might get a burger. Eat a burger for lunch. Me and the girlfriend's going to grill steaks this evening. Watch that fight tonight. It's going to be a good night. If Tennessee can get the win over Georgia tomorrow, it's going to be a real good weekend. Catch a big flathead today, get a Tennessee win tomorrow. Holy cow, what a weekend, man. Probably have better odds of catching another big flathead this weekend than we do getting a Tennessee win, especially being in Georgia. We're 10-point underdogs last I looked. Our offense ain't worth a damn this year. We started out so well playing the cupcake schools, but once we got into the SEC schedule, we can't score anymore. Our defense is really good. We can't score. Our quarterback got hurt last game. He's questionable for this one. I got a feeling he's going to play, though. Georgia just coming off that embarrassing loss, too, so I think we're going to get the best version of them. I think it could potentially be a butt whooping. But I'll be sitting there watching it tomorrow night nonetheless. The biggest thing, I made some preseason bets in the NFL. And what I done, I thought the Jets would suck this year. And I thought the Jets and Aaron Rodgers both was way overhyped coming into this season. And I was right about that. And so I took the point spread of every team against them, except for the Patriots, because I knew they were going to be bad. But I took the point spread for every team in the preseason. I bet it early because I knew the line would be better while the Jets were overhyped than what it would be when it got around to actual game time. And still, some of those bets, I'm about 50-50 right now on those, I think. So that's not gone. It's not going bad. It's not going great. I should have just bet the over-under on the wins because I would have totally taken the under, and that would have paid off. My big bet that I made, and I didn't make it preseason. What happened was Tua got that concussion, and he was going to be missing a few games. And I knew the Jets were going to suck, and I knew the Patriots obviously suck. I'm like, Buffalo's got that division now. Guaranteed they got the division. So after Tua got hurt The next day, I bet on Buffalo to win the AFC East. I put $100 on it. I'm going to win that. That's happening. Unless something crazy just happens. That one's going to pay off. But my big prediction this year, and I didn't bet it, but I just thought it was going to happen, and I talked about it. And thankfully, I didn't bet it, but I was confident it was going to happen. I thought Pittsburgh, the Steelers, was going to take a big downturn this year. They haven't been good offensively the last few years. And then this year, they bring in Russell Wilson and Justin Fields. I thought Russell Wilson was washed after the last couple seasons in Denver, and I never thought Justin Fields was any good. And I'm thinking, man, Pittsburgh's going to suck this year. Their defense is going to be good as always, but they're not going to score. Well, boy, that looks pretty stupid right about now, because Russell Wilson looks like he can play, and hell, Justin Fields, he was what were they, like 4-1, 4-2, something like that, before Russell Wilson come back and took over? So that was pretty stupid on my part. I looked dumb on that prediction. I was kind of thinking it might be a repeat again of preseason. I was thinking this of Kansas City and San Francisco in the Super Bowl. I still think Kansas City has a legitimate shot of getting there. I mean, they just keep finding ways to win. It ain't been pretty all season, but they find ways when it matters. I don't know who's coming out of the NFC. I don't know who's coming out. San Francisco don't look like the same team without Christian McCaffrey. There's Detroit, but do you trust Detroit to get it done? I mean, they're still Detroit. I love Dan Campbell. How do you not like Dan Campbell? But can you trust Detroit to get it done in the playoffs and it matters? I don't know. Philadelphia's been looking better lately, but I don't know. Do you trust Philadelphia? I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't trust Green Bay. I don't trust Minnesota. I don't know what's going to happen. I think the NFC's could be a handful of teams in the NFC that ends up in the Super Bowl. But I think in the AFC, it's probably Kansas City. Buffalo looks good. Baltimore looks good. But Kansas City's had both of their numbers in the playoffs. So until one of those teams can step up and clear the hurdle, I just can't trust them. So I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. The big surprise for me this year, though, has been Pittsburgh's way better than I thought they were going to be. Oh, we got a little love tap there. A little dink messing with that chunk. We ain't had problems with dinks today. The dinks have not been here. I've not been in a productive area for numbers of fish today. That is for sure. I've not. It's not been a day for numbers. The big flathead saved this trip. If we didn't get that flathead, and I was just coming out here and we ended up with one small blue, I wouldn't have went home happy. I'm going home happy today because of the flathead. That flathead ensured that I'm getting a video today, matter of fact. Because if we'd just got two fish the size of the blue that I got, this video wouldn't have got posted. I'm posting the flathead though, by gosh. It may be an afternoon bite too. I don't know. It may be a situation where it'll turn on this afternoon. I mean, I'm inclined to believe it will, since we ain't got nothing going on this morning. It's got to be better in the afternoon, at least numbers-wise anyway. Could be a night bite right now too. I don't fish nights anymore. I get asked about that some. I have people comment occasionally and ask when I'm going to do another night trip, or why don't I make night videos anymore. And Well, the answer to that is simply people don't watch, folks. That's the easiest way to answer it. I'm just not going to make videos that don't have interest from people to watch them. And the night videos, back when I was making them, they just didn't get, they didn't get clicked on very much. And so then I started changing my thumbnail to make it, you didn't know I was filming a night trip until you clicked on the video. And what I noticed was that people were clicking off of the night videos very early on. The average watch time wasn't very good because they were clicking, they'd click on the video, see it was a night video, and then click off. And I have two theories on that. One is, and I think this is probably the most likely, is that most people aren't interested in night fishing videos because most people aren't fishing at night. I mean, really, you look at it, yeah, there's you know, especially in the catfishing world, there's people that do it, they fish at night. I used to. But most of your general public, they're not going out. They're going to fish till dark and they go home. They're not staying out at night. So therefore, they're not going to have interest in watching night videos as the airplane goes by. The other thought is that maybe it's just not as entertaining because you can't really see what's going on, or you can't see spots per se. Like if you're local and you're trying to, or you're familiar with the body of water and you're trying to figure out where somebody's at, you can't really see where they're at. I'll show you on the map. I mean, I show everybody my map card, how I'm setting up, but you can't really see well. So maybe it's just not a good entertaining video. I don't know. But either way, they don't get watched. And so I stopped making them. And I just don't fish at night anymore. When I was making night videos, I was working night shift back then. And so it was easier for me when I wasn't working to just stay on my sleep schedule, my night shift sleep schedule. Because, you know, I mean, for those of you that have done night shift, you know how hard it is to flip-flop back and forth between sleeping at night and working at night. Like I found it was just better for me and my body to just try to, I wouldn't keep here's what I would do. So when I was working night shift, I'd work 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. So time I would get off work, be ready for bed, it's 8:30, 9 o'clock in the morning, right? And so that's when I would go to bed, would be like 8:30, 9 o'clock in the morning. On my days off, I would try to go to bed around 3 a.m. to 5 a.m., somewhere in that range. That way I could go to sleep when it was still dark out, and that would help me sleep a little better. But anyway, I was still staying up late at that point in time on my off days because that was just better for my body. And so because I was awake at night, I was doing normal activities at night. I'd go fishing at night. If I needed to work on something outside at my house, I had big spotlights I'd set up outside. I'd just be out there working away middle of the night while my neighbors were asleep. But once I got away from working the night shift, and once I realized there's nothing I can do to get a night video watched, I can get a night video clicked on, but I can't get people to actually watch it as far as the view time goes, which is just as important. I mean, if you get a bunch of clicks on a video, but people click off of it within a few seconds, well, you might as well not got the clicks. It's useless for you. So I just got away from it. And so I haven't fished at night. I ain't done a night trip all this year for sure. I don't think I done one last year. I don't know that I've done a night trip, honestly, since I quit working, since I started doing YouTube full time a few years ago. Oh, we got hit. We got hit. Has he got it? Our chunk got hit, our rod tip. I think he's got it because our line's at an angle. I think he's come up in the water column with it, but our line's starting to swim off. I'm gonna let him load up that rod. Okay, he's got it now. He's got it now. We got another one, folks. Oh man, he's turning us into the wind too. It's blowing in my face now. I've had this hood over my head, trying to keep my head and ears warm. He just turned me into it. I got that gush of cold air in my face. The old fish, he could have swam the other way. It's gonna be another small blue though. He's left the bait on right now though, that's nice of him. Let's see if we can land him quick before he throws that bait off. I'd like to drop it back down. Wipe my nose, snot pouring everywhere, fish. Let's take a look at this one, see if he's got any mud on him like yeah, he does. Look at this, folks. You can see mud all down his back. I mean, from the belly all the way up to the top. These fish, folks, they're buried down in that mud. Whatever this weather change, I guess, it's drove them down deep and in the mud. That's why we're not getting bit right now. These fish are inactive. That's 2 blues now. Both blues we've caught have been recently buried in it. So, I think our situation today, we're in the right place at the wrong time. There we go. I think that's what's happened to us today. Let's drop that back down. Nice of him to leave that bait on for us, though. It wasn't a very good fight either. I mean, it wasn't a big fish, but he didn't fight very hard for very long. And when he got up here, I mean, I had no trouble getting hold of him. He didn't even try to thrash around from that. So, a little bit lethargic right now. Maybe it'd be better this afternoon, potentially. I don't know. It's another bite, though. It's another fish. It's been hard to come by today. We'll take it. All 3 fish, though, on the chunk. Oh, we got more fish busting over here. More skipjack. Well, they made 1 splash over there, and by the time I get the damn jigs from unwrapped around the rod, they're gone. Make a few casts. As soon as I stand up again, there's the wind blowing into me. It's cold, folks. I'm telling you, it's cold. The wind's cold. But yeah, I just got away from the night trips. I just don't do them. They wasn't getting watched, and now that I'm sleeping at night, a normal sleep schedule, I just don't have a great desire to fish at night. And it's also too, I mean, from a practicality standpoint, it's less crap I have to carry with me in the kayak. Because to film at night, I had to have that big overhead light, battery for it. It's just more stuff I had to deal with. Nowadays, I don't have to do any of that stuff. I don't have to carry it with me, don't have to have it. I actually don't even have my filming light. It's not functional right now because the plug, to plug it into my battery, I had to take it off because my weed sprayer, my spray tank, I put my weed killer in on my lawnmower. Back in the spring, it messed up. And I was there at the house, I needed another plug to put on, so I took the one off my filming light to put on it. And I never replaced the one. I honestly completely forgot about it till now, that I forgot to pick up another plug to put on that light. Which I don't guess it matters, because I mean, hell, it ain't like I've been It ain't like I've missed it. So, here's what I think I'm gonna do, folks. I think I'm about to start trolling. It seems like the later the morning has went on, the catfish aren't getting active. It's been slow for them all morning, but it seems like the bait, we're not seeing large numbers of skipjack come up, but we are at least seeing those sporadic schools pop up occasionally here. And we're seeing it more frequently is all I'm trying to say. Seems like the skipjack's getting more active. There was some shad flipping right there. I think I'm gonna get out here and start trolling and try to get us some bait. Because I'm cold, and if I start pedaling, I'll warm up quick. So I think that's what I'm gonna do. We've got I'm going home happy today. I wish we could have got more catfish. I'm going home happy though because of the big flathead. I think I'm gonna reel these up and let's start trolling. Let's me and you take off and go back here in this creek and see if we can't bust some skipjack going back down through here. Let's just go try to do that before we go home. Because I'm just cold, folks. I can deal with the cold more when I'm getting bit, but I just ain't getting bit. I think we got a little bit lucky to get our flathead, but you got it. Like I said, you got to get lucky. Right place, right time. And we were in the right place and the right time for that flathead to work through, but the blues, man, them two fish that we've caught being covered in mud, that's a bit discouraging, honestly. The fact that we're not getting many fish, and the ones we have, just that being clearly buried that deep for both of them to have mud all the way to the top of their back, like that's, I think this weather system has affected them more than what I thought it would. Yeah, let's just switch everything over. We'll pull up our anchor, and me and you will start trolling a little bit and see if we can bust us some skipjack. For however long we got left here to fish anyway, or the battery dies. My battery normally dies about 4 hours, give or take, so y'all may not be able to stick with me much longer, but it'll take me a while to get back to the car because I'm about 2 miles or so away from where I launched at. And I'll definitely be trolling these jigs the whole way back. But I want to work this creek here a little bit too before I go. I'll probably spend 30 minutes or an hour or so maybe just working this creek. Boy, look at all that mud there on our dumbbell. Y'all clean that off here right quick. We'll have a muddy mess here in the kayak. I just washed this thing too when I got back there from Louisiana, and we're gonna have it all muddied up and everything again. Yeah, folks, I'm not gonna turn the graph back on, as we know how fast we move without the graph as far as trolling speed goes. And some people, I don't know if this is true or not, some people think skipjack are more sensitive to your transducer beams, your sonar, the pinging. I don't know if that's true or not with skipjack, but some people believe that. And so, situation like this, where we don't need that graph on because we're able to monitor our speed just from the fact that we know how fast I pedal. And these skipjack are just, dadgummit, we got this all wrapped up everywhere. These skipjack are just out here chasing shad sporadically all over out here. So it's just a matter of trying to get in front of them. And the best way to do that, in my opinion, is this right here. Throw a couple rods out and start trolling. We got 2 lines in the water at all times, constantly moving. Skipjack are roaming around. We're roaming around. And what we're trying to do, we're trying to represent with these lures, with these jigs. We're trying to represent shad that have gotten separated from their school. That's how these skipjack, that's how they eat. If you notice, they'll swim into a school of shad. And they try to bust up that school. One of the sayings I like to use in it is the fact that there's safety in numbers. When all them shad are schooled up tight together, it's hard to pick off any one of them individually. But if a skipjack or bass or any other predator fish can swim into that school, bust it up, get some individual fish separated, get them isolated, well then it's easier for the predator fish to lock in on that 1 or 2 fish there that's separated from the bunch. So what we're trying to do with these jigs, as we swim them along, we're trying to represent fish, shad, threadfin shad, that have gotten separated from a school and it's an easy meal. So, as we move along here, that's what we're going to hopefully do. I'm just going to take us down. The skipjack we've seen, and what we've caught out here, have been right out here in open waters. I'm going to take us down, at least to start with. I think I'm going to take us down the middle right through here of this creek channel. We'll take us down the middle unless we see them busting near the shoreline. And depending on how that goes, when we get to the back, I'll either turn around, come straight back out the middle again if we're catching them out here in this area, or I'll pick a shoreline and come up on the way back. I'll tell you this though, I'm looking forward to coming back out this creek versus going into it, because right now the wind blowing in my face. And it ain't blowing hard. It's not like it's a super windy day, but just the fact that it's cold, and it's kind of got like a damp feeling to it too, like it's a cold, wet feeling. It just makes it always, anytime it's damp, it just feels colder. That's blowing in my face right now. So I'm looking forward to, I'm looking forward to getting back here, turning around. But if we can get us some, I don't even need a lot of skipjack, because we haven't used our bluegill at all today. Like, I'm gonna take them with me. I'll take our live bluegill back home. So if we can get, and we got that one skipjack still in the cooler that we ain't cut. I mean, if I could get 2 or 3 skipjack, we could get another catfish session in tomorrow. It's just a matter of finding them though, man. We got to just get these jigs right, and if we can put it in front of these skipjack that are coming up and feeding, they're going to hit it. They're just so so sporadic right now. It's a pretty time of year in the fall when the leaves start to turn. But we're getting late enough into November now, most of these trees have, at least the ones that have the prettiest colors, have lost their leaves. That one over there, it's still got some orange on it, but you can see how many leaves in that person's yard. I'm surprised he ain't out here with a leaf blower. Driving us crazy today. I guess that's the one good thing that the rain yesterday does. It's kept all the people from mowing and leaf blowing today. I did hear a leaf blower earlier for a little while. I don't know where it was at. It was off in the distance. Ain't nothing out here today right now though. Boy, I really ain't seeing nothing back here. I'm not seeing shad flipping. I'm not seeing any skipjack activity. I may not even go all the way back in this creek. I may, if I don't see something. If I don't see something chasing something back here in the next couple minutes, I'm gonna turn. We'll spend our time kind of out there where we were just trolling around. Because we know there's some busting out there. I've just been at a loss, man. That's all I can say. I've been at a loss. It's been tough to catch skipjack with any consistency lately. I was kind of wondering too if, since they've just started lowering the water, if that's not pulled some of the fish out of these. Between that and the colder temperatures at night, that's not maybe pulling some of these fish out of the backwaters early in the day. They probably go back up in there in the afternoons where it's warmer and sunny, but not going to be warmer or sunny today. Yeah, I'm not seeing anything going on back here, folks. I think I'm gonna turn. Let's just turn, go back out. I'll go back up above where we were fishing, loop around. I said, it will be nice to turn. It's cold. Yeah, it's something about wind blowing in your face that just makes it feel so much colder. I guess it helps because I got the hood on, blowing into the back of my head, but blowing into your face, your skin exposed, like it just makes it feel so much colder. By the time I get back to the car though, and we'll have pedaled a couple miles to get there, I'll be much warmer. Right now, just because we've been sitting out here for 3 hours or so, my core temperature, I think, is cooled off too much. Y'all ain't gonna make it back to the car with me, though, I'll tell you that. My battery's in the red right now. We're about dead on the battery, folks. But, nevertheless, you were here for the most important catch of the day, which was that big flathead. I don't think I got, I'm trying to think when the last flathead I caught was. I didn't catch any in South Carolina, and I didn't catch any in Louisiana. I'm trying to think. I don't know if I got a flathead in October or not. I don't know if I did. It's been a long time since I busted a big flathead. That's what I'm getting at. It's been a long time. So that was very welcome sight today. That made my day. Yeah, let's work back up in here in this area. We know there's some skipjack out here, kind of staged out here in front of this creek. We'll get out here and kind of do a figure 8 pattern around. Try to run into something. And again, I've talked about it so much, folks, but this pedaling motion, the bicycle pedaling motion, so much more comfortable to me than the Hobie. That stepping motion of my Hobie links, and my body I just don't like it. But this right here, I can do this for hours. This don't bother me at all. The Hobie drive is better for storage. Like this drive here, I mean, it's big. If you got to store it in your car or truck, whatever, like it takes up a lot of space. The Hobie drive is much more compact and it's lighter weight. And it's easier to work on if something goes wrong. But from a comfort standpoint, like this, and the Hobie drive is also better if you got weeds. If you're dealing with grass or leaves, like on the fall right here, the leaves on the water, they get wrapped up in your prop and stuff. But from a just strictly comfort standpoint, this prop drive, the bicycle style, so much better for me. I ain't seeing a damn thing jumping anywhere now. There ain't nothing going on out here right now at the moment, folks. I'm still gonna put in a little bit more time though out in this area before I start making my way back. And then hopefully on the way back, I'll get lucky and run into something. Running these rods like we are, with the 2 jigs on them, you pull through a school, hell, you could have both rods go down and have 4 skipjack like that. I mean, it could just be boom, boom, and you got 4 baits. I see some birds flying around up there by that house up yonder. Might be some more bait up there in front of that creek. I may make my way up there. See what's going on. Them birds are up there for a reason. They're Mother Nature's fish finder. Yeah, I'm gonna troll my way up there. I don't think y'all are gonna make it up there though, because my battery's in the red and got just a sliver left there. I guess I'll go ahead and maybe tell y'all bye before this thing just randomly cuts off. Thanks for coming with me today. I know it's been a slow day. I normally don't like posting these long videos I want these trips to be real, and today's certainly, it's as real as it gets. You've seen everything today. But with a trip like today where we bust a big flathead, I feel much better about posting it. So anyway, if I'm able to get us some more skipjack somewhere up through here, the next video will probably be a catfish trip, assuming I catch some catfish. And if I either don't get any bait or I don't do any good on the next catfishing trip, then you'll probably be seeing a carp video next. Either way, next video is coming soon, as long as I survive long enough to film it. So anyway, y'all, thanks for coming with me today. I'll see you next time.